One of the most profound movements and one of the first real social movement in American history was all about slavery, and that's labor. And it was about creating a different kind of democracy, different kind of way of thinking about the economy. And I think these battles aren't over. The African American portion of American wealth as a whole is 3% today. And the last time it was 3% was in 1868, 3 years after slavery. African Americans going back to before the Civil War, and the earliest African American spokespersons and writers and leaders like Frederick Douglass and others argued that the fundamental feature of the American economy was dehumanization. And they also argued that you can't have a democratic constitution and an economic system that degrades and exploits people. Many of the radical Republicans who fought for the Civil War and in the Civil War believed the same thing. I think the true intent of the 13th Amendment wasn't just to eliminate chattel slavery. It was to eliminate all forms of economic oppression and create what we would now call living wages for everybody. I think that was the true intent. But these things were overthrown. After the Civil War, there was a counter-revolution, Lincoln's assassination, the destruction of Reconstruction. We got segregation, which wasn't just about making white people feel superior, it was about a cheap labor force, which persisted. The 1963 March on Washington, where everyone sees Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. Well, King wasn't head of that march. A. Philip Randolph was, the first black trade union president. The demand of the march was for jobs and freedom. Jobs came even before freedom. That sort of dream of a new kind of economy was tightly connected with thinking about voting rights and a new kind of politics. And when African Americans said we refuse to work as basically semi-slave laborers with no rights and no voting rights and no protections, and my generation said we're not going to do that work that our parents did, then employers started bringing undocumented immigrants into the country to work with no rights and no protections. And when the government said, well, what are we going to do with all these young folks like me who don't want to do this kind of semi-slave work? They didn't reform the economy. They said, let's lock them up. And we got mass incarceration. And so I think all of these things are related to our history. All of these things are part of the challenge of changing the system. And the system connects these things.
This is why you took a second job. While you taught yourself how to fix the plumbing. While you'll do whatever it takes to keep your home. And that is why we want to help. We are making home affordable, a free government resource that can make paying the mortgage easier. Call 888-995-HOPE today.
the first votes are in. Yes, indeed. Welcome to the program. This Tuesday, February 2nd, the morning after Iowa, coming to you live on Free Speech TV and, of course, on our video stream, TawkrTV. And it was a big win in Iowa among the Republicans for Ted Cruz, and Big Mouth was the big loser. Right. Despite all the bravado, Donald Trump came in second. On top, Ted Cruz with 28%. Donald Trump coming in second at 24%. But the big winner over there was Marco Rubio. Came out of nowhere in the last few days. Almost caught up with Donald Trump. He had 23%. The wind at his back as he moves into New Hampshire, emerging now clearly as the establishment alternative to Donald Trump or Ted Cruz. The establishment will be rallying behind Marco Rubio. And among the Democrats, basically, it's a tie. Can you believe it? Hillary, the winner, of course, but only by a hair, 49.9% to 49.5% for Bernie Sanders. A win is a win is a win. Still, it's Bernie who pulled off the impossible, coming out of nowhere over 45 points behind when he started, to tie and almost defeat the fabled Clinton machine. That big showing, Bernie and his army of young people will give him a lot of momentum going into New Hampshire, could propel him to an even bigger victory in New Hampshire. Meanwhile, Martin O'Malley and Mike Huckabee have already suspended their campaigns after their poor showings in Iowa. And you can expect pretty soon that Rick Santorum and Carly Fiorina and Ben Carson and Rand Paul and Chris Christie and Jeb Bush will do the same. It's a whole new ballgame. Welcome to it.
This is the Bill Press Show.
On opening body bags after Typhoon Haiyan. I can only imagine it like unearthing a scab. Zipper breaks open one by one. Mothers trying to dig through themselves an umbilical cord to lend life to a limp ghost. There is not enough relief here to hide the scent of what this child used to be. The coconut trees are not high enough to see over the inside out that was made here. Bags do not have the honor of being called burial plots. Churches ain't supposed to be mausoleums. Tacloban was morphed into ground zero. And I watch this while it snows in Madison, Wisconsin, a place where it's easier to live as a rodent than it is to be a colored person. This place drowns my people in a different way. I inhabit both places like Jigsaw Corpse, trying to find itself whole. These brown boys in Tacloban aren't my cousins, but I want to carry them to safety. These brown girls in Tacloban aren't my daughters, but I want to tell them they're still growing after this choking, but I'm still an ocean away, a language farther from root, a skin tone lighter than the sand, born there, raised here, home nowhere. To watch this storm is a sorry excuse for mourning. It is to need the sun desperately. It is to realize that your body is in one country while your grief is in another. To look at your house, walk to a river, and come back to no house is to be Filipino. To look at your motherland hurting from a TV screen is to be Filipino American. To watch my islands through the blue eyes of Anderson Cooper is the most American I have ever felt, but I still cry for them, and I still pray for them, because God tried to make them Atlantis before they were ready to be a myth just yet, because rebuilding is the Filipinos' most intrinsic muscle memory, but most painful trauma, because relief is just a word whose Tagalog translation I don't even know, because this poem is all I can give for my country, bleeding in salt water. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord keeps trying to drown us. Hallowed be thy bodies. Thy kingdom come down in waves and winds on earth as it is destroyed. Take us this day our daily rations and forgive those who have tried to kill us, as we forgive those who have tried to kill us. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us whose skin has always meant sin now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
And the results are in Iowa. Big victory for Ted Cruz and a squeaky victory for Hillary Clinton. Hey, hello, everybody. What do you say? Long night, I know. I think they're still counting some votes out in Iowa. What a crazy system, man.
Insane.
And every 4 years we say, we got to fix this. This is crazy.
Yeah.
But we won't, at any rate. But we'll tell you all about it, tell you what happened and why and what it all means as they all move into New Hampshire. So good to see you today. How about it? We are coming to you live from Washington, D.C., reaching out to you all across this great land of ours as we assess together the results of what happened last night in the caucuses in Iowa on the Republican side and the Democratic side. And we'll have some of our great best friends in to help us through, and all of you as well, to tell us what it all means out there in Radioland. Great to see you today on your local radio station. And we are so proud to welcome back and so proud to be back in Minneapolis, St. Paul on the great KTNF. Hello, hello. In the Twin Cities, and we hope to actually be out there in person to say hello to all of you coming up fairly soon. But at any rate, here we are with you today on the radio. And nationwide, coast to coast, we're also there with you on Free Speech TV. Good to see you today, and thank you so much for joining in. It is the Bill Press Show here with Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson.
Hello, Bill.
Good morning.
Indeed. Ray Rogers. She's here to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. Give her a call. What did you think about last night? Who now do you think is going to be the Republican nominee? What's it all mean for Donald Trump? Is he finished? And how about Hillary and Bernie? Where do we go from here in New Hampshire? 866-55-PRESS, or send us your comments on Twitter. Come on, we want to hear from you. We've been talking about it for a long time. Here we are. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. And thanks to our videographer, Cyprian Bolding, for keeping us looking good on free speech and our video stream, TawkrTV. Must admit, Donald Trump, he ended in style yesterday at one of his rallies. His little minions, somebody, their security said, you better watch out. I think I saw somebody with a tomato. Donald Trump, he's not afraid of that tomato. He says, let's go get him.
If you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of them, would you? Seriously. Okay? Just knock the hell. I promise you, I will pay for the legal fees. I promise.
This is the greatest, man.
What a jerk. At any rate, yeah.
Some of his hardcore supporters might take that a little too far.
Yeah, right.
You got to be careful with that.
Hey, and by the way, it was good to see you on CNN last night. Those of you who may have caught me on the early debate coverage with Wolf Blitzer and Anderson Cooper. And as if I didn't have enough on my plate already, Jesus. I have actually been recruited and agreed to sign up as a CNN contributor for the next couple of months through this election season. So you will be seeing a lot of me on CNN, and we will be tweeting out, if possible, every one of the appearances. Although there are so many right now, I can't keep track of them. Starting with 11 o'clock this morning, East Coast on with John and Kate. But we'll take it. We'll take it off from there. Here joining us today, of course, it's Tuesday. Arthur Delaney and Igor Volsky starting things off. Peter Fenn will be here, Democratic strategist, a little bit later in the program. We'll jump out to Iowa and say hello to Evan McMorris Santoro on the ground for BuzzFeed. And let's take a look at how it all turned out last night. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. There's a new Harris poll. Thank God that was empty. There's a new Harris poll out that asks Americans who their favorite Hollywood actors and actresses are. Anybody want to take a guess what the favorite actor is first?
Leonardo.
Leonardo is a good guess. Any other guesses?
I was laughing. I was paying attention. Sorry.
Wow.
He called you Pierre.
Didn't even notice.
The question was no, I noticed. The question was, who is the most popular American actor? The answer is Tom Hanks.
Oh, wow.
Tom
Ray
Hanks.
Got it. Ray got it. Yeah.
Tom Hanks also had the title in 2002, 2004, 2005, and 2013.
Well, if you told me that, I might have guessed better.
Well, yeah, but second place was Johnny Depp, is second place there. Now, the favorite actress in America?
Jennifer Lawrence?
Jennifer Lawrence? No. Jennifer
she's too
Lawrence.
polarizing.
Jennifer Lawrence is second place.
Kate Blanchett.
Kate Blanchett, no. Number one is Sandra Bullock. Really? Sandra Bullock.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, how about that?
Okay. All right.
That's fair. I mean, I'll go with that. Turns out Americans really like marijuana. You know, we have legalized marijuana in a couple of states now, and there's some. Actually, took a look at some of the numbers of what they are selling. How big is the market? A new report took a look at how much Americans spent in states where it is legal. So, legal cannabis sales jumped 17% in 2015 to $5.4 billion, and they expect it to grow by another 25% this year. They are expecting in 2016 marijuana sales just for pot, right? Not all the paraphernalia and things like that. Pot, where it's legal, $6.7 billion. That is from the ArcView Market Research, who's been taking a look at these numbers. Crazy, right?
Great. Or you could do what I do, just go to Eureka and get it for free from Dave.
Yeah, I mean, people just give it to you.
Right.
So at Yahoo, their CEO, Marissa Mayer, accidentally fired a couple of people last week. She didn't mean to. So they have this new system in place, and they sort of have rankings of how people are performing, right? And so a letter was meant to be sent out to a couple dozen of employees to say, hey, your numbers are a little low. We need you to get them better. But instead, they accidentally sent a letter terminating them. Dozens of employees lost their jobs on accident. They had to go back and say, whoops, we didn't mean to fire you. You're welcome back here for now. But you are also on the chopping block. So, good news, bad news?
Yeah.
I guess.
I don't know if I'd go back. I guess you kind of have to, right?
I guess you kind of have to, but I mean, dang, that's hardcore.
Going back is still better than.
Yeah, it's better than nothing.
Better than not having a job.
Yeah.
All right. Oh man, where do we start? In Iowa, I'll tell you. Well, let's just start with the big numbers on the Republican side. It is Ted Cruz by 5 points, 4 points over Donald Trump. And on the Democratic side, it is Hillary Clinton by 0.4% over Bernie Sanders. Call that a virtual tie, although, of course, there are no ties in politics. Yep, the votes are in. We are off and running now in the presidential primary. It's not just talk about who's going to deliver. Now we have seen who can deliver and who can't deliver. And on the Republican side, it's the big mouth who can't deliver. Although I got to say, still, even for, I would give him credit for somebody who's never run before and didn't run any ads and ran like an air campaign, not so much a ground campaign. Donald Trump did pretty well to come in second, ahead of all those other experienced politicians. But, of course, the whole bravado was, and the bluster was, that he was going to win. And in the end, not a great surprise because he ran a very good campaign. He particularly focused on evangelicals who make up something like 57%. Yeah, 57% of the Republican voters. 57% of Republican voters in Iowa are evangelicals, Christians, and that's whom Ted Cruz focused on. And it paid off for him with Ted Cruz coming in again. And, in the last couple of days, again, just to show you how the polls can be wrong, the polls show that while Ted Cruz had a little momentum, according to the polls, before the first of the year, that then he started to sink and Donald Trump was coming on strong. And all the polls in the end showed that Donald Trump had an edge over Ted Cruz, but it was Ted Cruz's ground organization, that getting out the vote, which I talked about last night on CNN, that was so important, that brought him in, and Donald Trump didn't have that kind of an organization. Again, he was counting on the bluster to bring people out and the excitement to bring people out. You need more than that. You need that ground organization. So it ended up Ted Cruz with 28, Donald Trump with 24. But the big winner, I think, was Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio with 23 almost took over Donald Trump, came in a very strong second. People had predicted he might get as much as 18. He's surpassed expectations, which is always good in this game. And with that Republican Party aghast at the prospect of having Donald Trump or Ted Cruz as their nominee, now looks like they see, there is an alternative. Our establishment alternative is not Jeb, it's not Chris Christie, it's not, Rand Paul was never the establishment, John Kasich. It's going to be Marco Rubio. It's going to be hard for any one of those other ones now to knock him off. And so here they were last night. Ted Cruz, big victory for all conservatives.
Tonight is a victory for courageous conservatives across Iowa and all across this great nation.
And Donald Trump congratulating Ted.
I want to congratulate Ted, and I want to congratulate all of the incredible candidates, including Mike Huckabee, who's become a really good friend of mine. So congratulations to everybody.
I can tell you, I didn't expect Trump to have that nice of a tone.
Yeah,
I thought it was going to be scorched earth.
Yeah, right. And by the way, Mike Huckabee suspended his campaign after the voting, after the results were announced, and I think a couple of others may do the same this year. But again, the winner, Marco Rubio, who said he sounded like Barack Obama 8 years ago.
Well, this is the moment they said would never happen. For months they told us we had no chance. For months they told us because we offered too much optimism in a time of anger, we had no chance. For months they told us because we didn't have the right endorsements or the right political connections, we had no chance. They told me that we had no chance because my hair wasn't gray enough and my boots were too high.
Yeah,
boots are still too high, by the way.
Because he's wearing those platform boots.
Yeah, boots are still too high.
Right, exactly.
Rubio finished just under 1% behind Donald Trump. I mean, right behind Donald Trump.
And the big news on the Democratic side, by the way, here's a little flash you haven't heard from anybody else. Bernie Sanders today will begin to get Secret Service protection. That has not been reported, but I can tell you. And he will get that because people are starting to take him very seriously. And they should. Bernie Sanders, who came really out of nowhere in Iowa and almost beat Hillary Clinton. It was 49.9% for Hillary, 49.5% for Bernie. If there were such a thing as a tie in politics, that would be it. But that does still add up as a win for Hillary Clinton, and she gets 29 delegates. Bernie Sanders picks up 21 delegates. Hillary last night. And by the way, neither one of them, they both had to hop on a plane to New Hampshire before they realized exactly what the final was. But she was still very happy with the results.
I stand here tonight breathing a big sigh of relief. Thank you, Iowa.
You bet.
It should be pointed out because she won, and you're right. A win is a win is a win. But this is how close it was, and this is how you could sort of talk about how weird the system is in Iowa. In some of the precincts, it was a tie.
Yeah.
In 3 of them. And you know what they do in those situations? They flip a coin. And Hillary won 3 of those.
No.
And if it had gone the other way,
it would have been
a Bernie Sanders win. Again, a narrow win, but that's how close it was in Iowa. It literally came down to coin flips.
Now, by the way, just take that little story. So last night I on the set there at CNN, every time they would show the caucus when they were counting the votes, right, in the baskets, and they were putting the Republican caucus, they were putting slips of paper in the baskets and everything, and they were saying, "This is democracy in action." And I kept saying to myself, "No, it's not.
No, it's not.
No, it's a flipping a coin. It's not democracy in action." Anyhow, and Bernie recognized too he had come a long way and still had good words to say about Hillary.
I want to take this opportunity to congratulate Secretary Clinton. And her organization.
And Bernie told his supporters, which is true, that they actually did pull off the impossible. We realized where he started from. And we were all there talking about it, right? 45 points behind, if not 50 points behind in Iowa. No super PAC, no PAC money, no Wall Street money, no establishment endorsements whatsoever. Not one senator, 2 members of Congress out of 435. None of the big organizations except for MoveOn.org. But Bernie had an army of young volunteers, and they really did pull off the impossible and almost won that. And that'll propel him on to New Hampshire for sure, where he's certainly expected to win, may even help him beyond. I think it shows it's going to be a long slog. This Democratic primary is going to go on for a long time. So, a big win for Ted Cruz, a squeaky win for Hillary Clinton. What's it all mean? 866-55-PRESS. Where do we go from here? Let's talk about it. This is the time you've been waiting for. We're into it now. Off and running. 866-55-PRESS.
The Iowa caucus results are in. On to New Hampshire. This is the Bill Press Show.
Today, in this country, we are having a conversation about police violence, the killing of black men, and what all that means. It is sad that this is happening and that every day there's a new incident to cause us to keep thinking about it and talking about it. But it is extraordinary that the American people are having to deal with this every day, whether you're watching CNN or MSNBC, Fox, or ABC News. All the news channels are talking about police violence and what does that mean against black people. Many people probably look at that, certainly have looked at it in the past, and they have said that these poor black men are doing bad things, and that's why they are ending up in confrontations with police without any understanding of the lives of these poor black young men. Part of what has been going on for decades is that poor black people live in communities that suffer from hyper-surveillance of the police. The police are more likely to be in their communities. The police are more likely to arrest them. The police are more likely to stop them even if they're not doing anything. And that is what is so hard for the American people to believe, that you would get stopped and searched and arrested by the police and not doing anything. But this is starting to come out as people are telling the stories over and over again. But this has been the condition, this hyper-surveillance by police, making it more likely for people to get a record, to be known by the police, and then once they get in the system, it is almost impossible to get out because of the whole system of being on parole and missing an appointment or fraternizing with a person who has a criminal record, getting you right back in the jail, and then going back again and again and again. This is coming to be seen by the American people in a way that it has never been seen before. But why are people in these communities in the first place? That's getting peeled away. People are there because of housing discrimination. They are there because this is the only place where affordable housing can be found. They are there because that's where their families live, and people are drawn to being in communities where they are comfortable. The combination keeps people in these low-income communities where they are an easy target for hyper-surveillance and then everything that comes from it. And so as we think about these issues, we have to understand that while you as an individual in this society, as a white individual, you may not carry personal racism, but that does not keep the system from operating in a racist way.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
This is the Bill Press Show.
27 minutes after the hour, Arthur Delaney joins our conversation, and we'll also talk to him about the latest from Flint when we come back here after the half. By the way, I mentioned that Mike Huckabee dropped out last night after suspended his campaign. So did Martin O'Malley on the Democratic side. So the big town hall on CNN tomorrow evening will be with Bernie and Hillary.
Yeah.
No Martin O'Malley. And I asked at CNN last night, by the way, I said, do you expect Martin O'Malley to show up? And they said, he has not yet confirmed. So he was waiting to see what would happen last night. Too bad. Good guy, ran a good race, has a lot of good ideas.
Wrong year to run.
Wrong year to run.
I like Martin O'Malley.
And you can expect other people to drop out, but Ben Carson wanted to make it clear. He is not dropping out. He has something else he needs to do.
Believe it or not, I'm actually going to go home and get a fresh change of clothes. And that doesn't mean that you're suspending your campaign. It doesn't mean that you're bowing out.
No, no. I'm not bowing out. I've been on the road so long.
My pants are dirty.
And I've been wearing the same pair of underwear.
I need to get a new suit.
Since I announced. And, it's just getting a little messy, a little smelly here.
I need to get some new socks.
And I'm tired of washing out that same pair.
I notice I'm wearing the same suit I wore yesterday. This time I get some new clothes.
All right, hang in there, Ben. Hang in there. We'll be back with Arthur Delaney.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Across from me at the kitchen table, my mother smiles over red wine that she drinks out of a measuring glass. She says she doesn't deprive herself, but I've learned to find nuance in every movement of her fork, in every crinkle in her brow as she offers me the uneaten pieces on her plate. I've realized she only eats dinner when I suggest it. I wonder what she does when I'm not there to do so. Maybe this is why my house feels bigger each time I return. It's proportional. As she shrinks, the space around her seems increasingly vast. She wanes while my father waxes, His stomach has grown round with wine, late nights, oysters, poetry, a new girlfriend who was overweight as a teenager, but my dad reports now she's crazy about fruit. It was the same with his parents. As my grandmother became frail and angular, her husband swelled to red, round cheeks, rotund stomach, and I wonder if my lineage is one of women shrinking, making space for the entrance of men into their lives, not knowing how to fill it back up once they leave. I have been taught accommodation. My brother never thinks before he speaks. I have been taught to filter. How can anyone have a relationship to food, he asks, laughing, as I eat the black bean soup I chose for its lack of carbs. I want to say we come from difference, Jonas. You have been taught to grow out. I have been taught to grow in. You learn from our father how to emit, how to produce, to roll each thought off your tongue with confidence. You used to lose your voice every other week from shouting so much. I learned to absorb. I took lessons from our mother in creating space around myself. I learned to read the knots in her forehead while the guys went out for oysters. And I never meant to replicate her, but spend enough time sitting across from someone and you pick up their habits. That's why women in my family have been shrinking for decades. We all learned it from each other, the way each generation taught the next how to knit, weaving silence in between the threads, which I can still feel as I walk through this ever-growing house. Skin itching, picking up all the habits my mother has unwittingly dropped, like bits of crumpled paper from her pocket on her countless trips, from bedroom to kitchen to bedroom again. Nights I hear her creep down to eat plain yogurt in the dark, a fugitive stealing calories to which she does not feel entitled. Deciding how many bites is too many, how much space she deserves to occupy. Watching the struggle, I either mimic or hate her, and I don't want to do either anymore, but the burden of this house has followed me across the country. I asked 5 questions in genetics class today, and all of them started with the word sorry. I don't know the capstone requirements. I don't know the capstone requirements for the sociology major because I spent the whole meeting deciding whether or not I could have another piece of pizza. A circular obsession I never wanted, but inheritance is accidental. Still staring at me with wine-soaked lips from across the kitchen table.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To not look the other way.
It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Recapping the Hillary Clinton win in the Iowa caucus, this is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go now at 33 minutes after the hour on the Bill Press Show. Yes, indeed, the morning after the first votes have been tallied in Iowa, and big winner, Ted Cruz, and she won. You can call her a big winner, I guess, Hillary Clinton, not by a lot. What's it all mean? Arthur Delaney joins us from the Huffington Post, senior reporter, and a regular Tuesday guest here on the Bill Press Show. Arthur, it's always good to see you. You were up late last night watching returns.
And it's great to be here now.
Well, yes. Now, you mean now that I was behind us?
Yeah, it's wonderful.
A little easier getting here this week than it was last week.
Oh, yeah, the blizzard conditions have abated.
Yeah, just about gotten rid of almost all the snow. So what do you think? Were you surprised? Let's start on the Republican side. Surprised that Donald Trump did not make it?
Absolutely. Because the polls said he was winning by a much wider margin than they said Hillary Clinton was winning. And polls are usually right. And I don't know why they weren't right this time, but a story that you've probably heard is polls underestimate the evangelical Christian get out the vote. So maybe that's what happened. Cruz's support is certainly highest among evangelical Christians.
Yeah.
Because that's what he is.
I mentioned 57% of Republican caucus goers in Iowa are evangelicals. 57%. Cruz knew that. And all the stories that I was surprised because I could have believed the polls, but all the stories that I saw about ground organization, right, and who was actually on the phones and targeting and identifying where their votes were and how they could get them out and what precincts they were in and all that stuff, and telling people, now here's where you have to go to caucus, was the Cruz operation. They had it down, man.
That's right. It was a known thing that the Cruz operation was much more serious than Donald Trump's. And now we're in an amazing situation in which Donald Trump is officially a loser. And this is what everyone said would change the complexion of the race. Even when people thought the Trump phenomenon was something you could dismiss back in the summer. It's all flash in the pan, give it a few months. If it was more durable, we would see him stumble after he becomes a loser in some state or other.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And now he is. But he surprised people by not being petulant in his speech.
I was sure that was coming. We played a little while ago his sort of concession, and it was he praised Cruz, he praised Mike Huckabee.
Yeah, who is this guy?
Yeah, what is going on?
Yeah.
He praised Iowa?
Yeah.
He had previously called the Iowa voters stupid and said he would never talk to them again.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he did use the unfortunate phrase, I think I'm going to buy a farm.
Yeah, right.
Which hilariously is an idiom for dying.
Oh, it is? Really?
He bought the farm.
Oh, he bought the... Oh, yeah. Right,
it's the people version of when you send a dog up to a farm upstate.
What about Marco Rubio?
Well, this is now...
Right, this is his moment.
This is a trickier thing. Yes, on the one hand, he pulled away from the other sort of establishment guys who all had like 2 votes, and we already see the beginning of people dropping out with Mike Huckabee suspending his campaign. But I think people should be conscious of the fact that that whole story is one that the Rubio campaign itself has been working really hard to create for the past 2 weeks by talking about what it would mean if he did better than expected.
Right, but talking about it is one thing. He delivered. He delivered 23%. He almost less than a point behind Donald Trump.
True. Maybe people could allow themselves to be spun, but be conscious of the fact that he came in 3rd place, but this is actually like a big deal, and he's a winner.
Yeah, and he comes back to New Hampshire. He's already back there. Actually, flew in last night, as you pointed out. At least he could claim, right? I'm now the establishment alternative to these 2 guys.
Yeah, if you don't like, that's what his campaign directly said. If you don't like these 2 guys,
here I am.
And clearly, lots of people don't like these guys. Rubio's your guy. It's not Jeb Bush or Ben Carson or any of these other people. Ben Carson, by the way, who left because he needed clean laundry.
Yeah.
He had an early speech against legalizing marijuana and then
went down to get a change of clothes in Florida. Yeah. Wait a minute. It seems to me you don't go to Florida to get the clothes you need for New Hampshire.
Right.
This is something...
There's something that doesn't quite fit with that.
This is actually the clear winner of Iowa is Ben Carson flying to Florida.
It's the greatest.
It's incredible.
Right. Okay.
And it's not something that was said offhand or by a campaign staffer.
No.
That was what they put on their letterhead.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like we're not dropping out. We just need some clean clothes.
Look, I got a statement
in Florida.
I got a statement in my email at 9:24 p.m. last night. Statement from Carson for President Communications Director Larry Ross. Contrary to false media reports, Dr. Ben Carson is not suspending his presidential campaign, which is stronger than ever. After spending 18 consecutive days on the campaign trail, Dr. Carson needs to go home and get a fresh set of clothes.
Amazing.
Well, that's Armstrong Williams' job.
Yeah.
His valet.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
No,
we'll get him some clothes.
Manager. All right, but now, important, let's talk about the Democratic side. Is there such a thing as a tie And can Hillary Clinton today claim that she won Iowa?
Well, they get proportionate numbers of delegates, so yes. However,
yeah, you're right. She won. She won. I mean, let's face it, Bernie.
She
had
won.
a very strong second, very very strong, but she won.
But all this does is she maintains the idea that she's the winner. If Bernie Sanders had won decisively, that could have been huge for him. I mean, he's in a great position in Iowa and New Hampshire already, and the Clinton campaign thinks it has a firewall of support, particularly among African Americans. But what happened with Barack Obama in 2008, that winning in Iowa brought a legitimacy to the whole campaign that swung people's support elsewhere. So Bernie Sanders potentially could have been in that situation if he had won decisively, eroded the Hillary Clinton firewall. But my guess would be that that's not going to happen, even though he came pretty close.
Yeah. Pretty impressive, I got to say. And as he said, we accomplished the impossible. Certainly, when he got started, however long ago it was, not even a year ago, 45, 50 points behind in Iowa.
He was down, he
yeah.
declared his candidacy standing outside the Senate and then walked over to like Bistro Italiano and had lunch alone. And he was down by 50 points in Iowa. And now look at what's happening. It's really something.
Right. So it was the final results there again for those of you just tuning in. 49.9% for Hillary, 49.5%, 0.4 percentage point.
So and what
behind,
happened?
And Hillary, just gets 29 delegates, and Bernie Sanders gets 21 delegates out of Iowa. At least that's what they're saying today.
And it's a little hazy. The actual certified outcome, the Democratic Party in Iowa said, yeah, Hillary won. But it's so close that it's a big deal.
Right. Well, one of the first lessons I learned when I got involved in politics in California was a win is a win is a win, right? And you got to consider it that way. I mean, people joke about landslide so-and-so who might have won by 2 votes or 3 votes. But if they're elected, and they just take it and run with it. Look at George Bush. He wasn't even elected. He acted like he had a mandate, right? I think the Hillary can say, Hillary Clinton can say, and for her, it was really reversing the Clinton record of defeats. And Iowa's never been a good state for the Clintons.
Yes, they had such ghosts.
Yeah, right.
They had such baggage that needed to be thrown out, and they certainly did that.
They certainly did that, indeed. So New Hampshire, it looks like it's just a week away. A week today, actually.
Yeah.
The 9th.
Yeah. And we'll be up there for that. Bernie Sanders wins unless Hillary pulls an upset. And after that, who knows?
And that could revive Trump from his loser status. And that's a place where you just vote. You don't have to do this weird caucusing.
No.
It's weirder for Democrats where you have this milling around in a room.
Yeah.
Republicans cast paper ballots. But that's good for Trump because he doesn't have the organizational power.
I mean, next week, a week from today, is legitimate democracy. You walk in, you vote, you leave.
That's how it works. That's how it's supposed to.
And you can do it all day long, right? You don't have to be there at 7 o'clock, and you don't have to camp out, basically. No, you walk in, you vote.
It's
boom.
amazing that we're totally fixate on this wildly unrepresentative, tiny state with a totally weird process for declaring the winner.
I know. And as I mentioned last night on CNN to David Gergen, every 4 years we say, we got to change this. We can't let Iowa dominate this. And as David said, we always say that every 4 years, and we never will. Arthur Delaney here joining our conversation about last night in Iowa. We know who won. Now, what does it all mean? And as we move ahead to New Hampshire, Arthur also keeping us up to date on Flint. Let's find out the latest. Any progress there for the poor folks of Flint with Arthur Delaney? You weigh in anytime at 866-55-PRESS.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
So you're drowning in student debt, and it looks like there's no way out. Have you considered bankruptcy? Of course not. It's a dirty word, and everything you've heard says students can't file anyway. It didn't start that way. Bankruptcy laws were enacted in the 19th century to give people a fresh start. But not all debt is created equal. Take this, for example. We have you, your buddy Carlos, and your grandma Lucy. Carlos got laid off. His credit card debt was too much to handle, so he filed for bankruptcy. It will totally screw his credit, but at least he can start fresh, and after 10 years, his credit report should be fine. Grandma Lucy's home lost half its value. Now her mortgage isn't worth paying back. She says F it and decides to file for bankruptcy too. Then there's you. You didn't land that dream job, you're struggling to make ends meet, but the interest just keeps piling up. With a broken heart, you've written off the possibility of buying a home, having kids, and getting married because, hello, who wants to deal with your crazy baggage? But in reality, you want those things, and your education was supposed to get you there. Now you need a fresh start, just what bankruptcy was intended for. You try to file, like Carlos and Grandma Lucy, and that's when you realize it's not as easy for you as it was for them. In the 70s, Congress worried that students were using bankruptcy to abuse loan programs. That wasn't quite true. Still, over the years, Congress gradually stripped student debtors of their options. The Bankruptcy Reform Act of 1978 was even called discriminatory toward students by the chairman of the subcommittee. Student debt was singled out and lumped with criminal debts. Today, if student debtors try filing for bankruptcy anyway, they'll need to prove their debt imposes an undue hardship. But who's to say what qualifies as an undue hardship? Even some judges have said they don't get it. This lack of clarity in the law could work in your favor. A Harvard researcher discovered in 2012 that few students actually try to discharge their loans through bankruptcy. Of the students who filed for bankruptcy to settle other debts, only 0.1% try the same tactic on their school debt. The craziest part? Just under half of them got their debts fully or partially discharged. In other words, you can file for bankruptcy on your student loans. Depending on your situation, it might just be a matter of trying. At least there's that.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, at 12 minutes before the top of the hour with Igor Volsky from Think Progress joining us at the top of the hour. Get his take on last night's results in Iowa. Here with Arthur Delaney, senior reporter from Huffington Post. And you know how the media goes, Arthur. We focus on something like intensely for a couple of days, and then we just sort of move on. Like Flint. Nobody's talking about Flint anymore, except we are.
The national focus on Flint was like 6 months too late anyway.
Yes, anyway.
They'd already switched back.
Yeah.
4 months before we even started.
That's right. And then when the national media did pay attention to it, it was like for 2 days, right?
It was a good week.
A week.
Like last week.
Yeah. Okay.
And the week before.
Yeah. Haven't heard anything about it since. What is the latest? I saw your story about John Kasich.
John. Well, this was a debate night item. A strange thing happened. And it speaks to the broader lead pipe issue that everyone ought to worry about. So at the Republican debate, Kasich is asked, Rick Snyder in Michigan's getting a lot of flack for his handling of a lead poisoning crisis there. And John Kasich was like, I don't really know anything about it. You gotta work hard when you're the governor in a situation like that. And a funny thing is, there's a lead poisoning crisis in Ohio.
Oh, really?
Where John Kasich is the governor.
The governor.
And the state EPA there has been cracking down on this. Apparently this is what's happened. I haven't done a lot of reporting on it myself, but anyway, the state government's closely involved. I don't know if Kasich should have brought that up and said, "Look, we're doing this," or he just has no idea that it's happening.
Yeah.
But it was a strange moment, and it underscores the fact that lead pipes are everywhere, and a Flint-like crisis could happen anywhere that the lead pipes are.
And there are lead pipes in municipal water systems all over the country, correct?
Roughly 10 million American homes are connected to water mains with lead pipes. And this was a dumb decision that was made like 100 years ago. And the reason there is no national effort to dig these pipes up anywhere, and Rick Snyder is saying, people are saying, why aren't you digging up the pipes? Rick Snyder and his they don't realize nobody's digging up the pipes because there's a strategy of water treatment in which you add corrosion inhibitors, phosphates,
to the water,
the water at the plant, and that coats the interior of the pipe so that the lead isn't touching the water.
And that's what they failed to do in Flint.
When
they took the river water.
It wasn't the river itself. It wasn't because Rick Snyder's a Republican. They just screwed up the treatment. And if they hadn't, this could have worked. But anyway, if your water chemistry changes and you have lead pipes, this is what can happen anywhere in America. And it does. It happens lots of places.
Well, I have to tell you how few people recognize exactly what happened. We were in the White House briefing last week, and a question was asked about Flint. And Josh Earnest, and I mean to be critical of him, but he said, I think, what most people believe. He said the problem was that they had the safe drinking water system, and then they switched to river water, and that corroded the pipes. And so when they went back to the safe water, that should solve the. And I wanted to shout out and say, no, ask Arthur Delaney. But I didn't want to embarrass him. But I mean, he honestly didn't realize what you have told us, that had they treated this river water, the problem would not have occurred.
And this is not theoretical. This is not merely theoretical. Mark Edwards, the Virginia Tech researcher who blew the whistle in D.C., helped blow the whistle in Flint, has performed research with Flint River water and Detroit system water. He's detailed how there are different amounts of corrosiveness and how if you had added the phosphates all along, this situation wouldn't have happened. So, it's a failure of treatment. This stuff about the river, about the emergency manager is background, but there is one key thing that went wrong, and it could go wrong in any place.
And so there is no effort nationwide to replace lead pipes.
There had been a Safe Drinking Water Act rule that said if a water system's lead levels get up above a certain point and they can't control it with corrosion inhibitors, then they got to start replacing the pipes. And it turns out that didn't work because they would only replace the pipes on public property. Lobbyists had watered down that rule so that they wouldn't have to replace the whole pipe. And that makes it worse because you jostle a lead pipe on private property and it spikes the lead levels in people's water. So they're revising this rule, but there's no time frame right now for when lead pipes will be dug up. So we just watch the water and make sure the lead levels don't get above a certain level.
And meanwhile, Flint residents will be drinking bottled water for.
They're waiting for those pipes to recoat, and they don't know exactly how long. But probably soon they'll be allowed to drink again.
All right, from Iowa to New Hampshire to Flint, Michigan, Arthur, he's got it all covered. Thank you, man.
Thank you for having me.
All right, see you again. We'll be right back. Wrap things up.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
A letter to the girl I used to be. Dear Emily, every time I watch baseball, a voice I no longer recognize whispers, "Ethan, do you remember? When you were going to be the first girl to play in the Major League Seattle Mariners rally cap." But to be honest, Emily, I don't. Dad told me that like it was someone else's bedtime story. But I do know you had that drive. Didn't let anyone tell you to wear shorts above your knees. Didn't care if boys thought your hair fell on your shoulders just right, but with girls, sleepovers meant the space between your shoulder and hers was a 6-inch fatal territory. The year you turned 11 was the first time you said out loud that you didn't want to live anymore. In therapy, you said you wouldn't make it to 21. On my 21st birthday, I thought about you. You were right. At 19, you started to fade. I tried to cross you out like a line in my memoir I wished I could erase completely. And maybe I'm misunderstanding the definition of death, but even though parts of you still exist, you are not here. Most of my friends have never heard your name until now. I've been trying to write this letter for 6 months. I still can't decide if it should be an apology or not. But now you will never hear Emily Smith announced at a college graduation. Get married. Give birth. When the prescribed testosterone started taking effect, my body stopped producing the potential for new life every month. I thought about your children, how I wanted them too. I let a doctor remove your breasts so that I could stand up straighter. Now, even if I somehow had those children, I wouldn't be able to nourish them. My body is obsolete, scarred cosmetic, but never C-section. I was 4 days late. They will never be grandparents. I was 1 week late. They will never hold their lover's sleeping figure. I was 11 days late. They will never breathe in a sunset and a sunrise in the same night. I was 2 weeks late. They will never learn to jump rope. I was 3 weeks late. They will never shout, "Watch, Mommy, watch me on the slide." I was 2 months late. A piece of us will never wrap their arms around our leg for comfort, but just to keep them from falling down. And I am sorry that this process is so slow, and all you can do is wonder if you ever had a place. You did. You still do. Don't forget that. Yours, Ethan. P.S. I never hated you.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Igor Volsky from Think Progress up at the next top of the next hour.
'Tis the season for politicians to make hokey bets on sporting events. Yesterday, we saw Senator John McCain fulfill his bet that he had with Senator Tom Tillis from North Carolina, because John McCain's Arizona Cardinals took on the Carolina Panthers in the NFC Championship game, and of course the Panthers won, which means John McCain had to wear a tie with the team colors of the Panthers. He went onto the floor and said, "I would like to take this opportunity to apologize for the god-awful colors on my tie that I'm wearing this afternoon."
Didn't do it very graciously.
Didn't do it very graciously, but he did it.
Back with
This
Igor Volsky.
is the Bill Press Show.
All right, guys, I want to take the last part of the day to change our focus and talk a little bit about water. There's rivers, there's lakes, there's huge oceans. You get thirsty, you just go and you get some water, right? We rely on rain for our water. We even rely on snow. But what if it doesn't rain? What if it doesn't snow? We have to get the word out about water conservation. I want you to tell your parents, your friends, your neighbors, how important it is to save water. It's up to you guys to save the planet. All right? What if it doesn't rain? What if it doesn't snow? We have to get the word out about water conservation. It's up to you guys to save the planet.
Hi, I'm Mark LaFleur, and I produced the short film you just watched called Aquaforce. California is experiencing one of the worst droughts it's ever had, and now, more than ever, it's important for everyone to do their part to help conserve water. The reason I made this film is because I wanted to make something fun and informative that would get people talking about the California drought. Obviously, this is an important issue because we have a limited amount of clean drinking water. I think it was very important to let people know, especially young people, that this is an important resource, maybe our most important resource, and it's something that we can't take for granted and we certainly can't waste. I really wanted this to be something that children would respond to. The kind of thing that any kid anywhere in the world, no matter what language they speak, could understand the story and be entertained by it and leave it knowing that this is something important, that if they didn't already know about this, that it's now going to be a part of the way that they think about water, the way that they live life, and that it's something that they'll share with their friends. The fact that they watch this video once or twice and they immediately understand that water is important, that's it. That was the whole point of this thing, to get it into the conversation, to make it something that kids are thinking about, talking about, that they're aware of, and that they know is important. This project was self-funded, so we relied on the support of our community to make it happen. It was pretty amazing to just have our neighbors, our friends, and our coworkers come together and volunteer their time and their homes and their kids to make this thing happen. Thanks for checking out the video. Keep the Aquaforce going, and thanks for watching Free Speech TV.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
And the results are in from Iowa. Ted Cruz walking away with it on the Republican side. Hillary Clinton just squeaking away with it on the Democratic side. Hello, everybody. Tuesday, February 2nd, the morning after, and 1 week from the New Hampshire primary. Out of the frying pan into the fire, so to speak. Great to see you today. Thank you for joining us, the Bill Press Show. And here we are in our nation's capital with our eyes on Iowa and New Hampshire as well. Ready to bring you the all the political news of the day and to find out what you think about it. We've been talking about leading up to this for a long time on both the Republican and the Democratic side. Now that you see results of the first caucuses, the first state, the first delegates already decided. Let us know. How does it rank with you? 866-55-PRESS is our toll-free number. And you can send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. And if you call at this time, you will have the honor of speaking with Igor Volsky from Think Progress. Hello, Prince Igor. Everything good?
Everything good, Bill. It looks like last night a lot of those Trump supporters who were telling us they're going to vote for Trump had buyer's remorse and went for Ted Cruz instead.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Couldn't believe it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Could not believe it.
That is the phrase of the day,
Yeah.
buyer's remorse. Get your copy. Peter Rockburn and Jamie Benson leading our team. Hello, hello.
Hello, Bill.
Hey, good morning.
Hello there.
Yes, Ray Rogers there, ready for your calls at 866-55-PRESS. Indeed, and Cyprian Bolding, our videographer, on the job as always. So ahead of the primary last night, the Washington Post brought in a few kids with the cameras rolling and the sound up too, and showed them little clips of each of the most of the candidates to get their immediate reactions out of the mouths of babes, as they say. Here it goes.
Okay, everyone ready to watch Bernie Sanders?
Yes. 1, 2, 3. We have more people in jail than any other country on earth.
He sounds like he's angry. I'm guessing he has a lot of time.
Now we're gonna watch a video of Hillary Clinton.
I know they caught her husband messing with another girl.
Oh my God.
Donald Trump! Oh no! Donald Trump! Yes!
And I say, we need to build...
He looks like a tomato.
I think he just thinks it's an easy peasy job. I think he wants attention.
Final thoughts on Ted Cruz?
I think he's fat. I think he's crazy.
This kid's pretty perceptive
They're
here.
pretty on the money.
It was all
they know what
facts.
they're talking about.
Nobody showed him Martin O'Malley? Well,
But that little kid says, I heard they caught his husband messing around with another girl.
Man.
How old is he? Like 5 or 6 or something? That sounds like...
This is a real thing. Like my 8-year-old Magnus, he and his little friend, they go back and forth all the time when they're
about politics.
About politics, I swear. They're both Bernie guys.
Oh.
They're both big fans of Bernie. If you ask him I asked him why he didn't like Donald Trump, right? Because he hates Donald Trump, and he says he doesn't like him because Donald Trump made fun of Steve Harvey, the God. because he loves Steve Harvey.
Oh.
He loves Steve Harvey.
Well, there was that joke on Twitter when it was so close in the Democratic field. Just let Steve Harvey announce it.
Yeah. So kids are paying attention because obviously we've got political shows on in the background, mostly CNN, Bill. Political shows on in the background at my house all the time, so they pick up on it.
Just seeps right in.
Yeah.
Here we go. Man. 10 minutes after the hour, Igor with us this first half hour. Peter Fenn joins us as a friend of Bill for the 8 o'clock hour, and then we'll jump out to Iowa and wake up. Probably will actually wake up Evan McMorris Santoro to get his take on last night. But first.
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Bill, I saw this story and I knew you would love this story. I pulled this just for you because this is all about drones.
Drones.
Because the Dutch police have a real problem with drones, just recreational drones. Because they say that if there's a problem like a helicopter that needs to land for emergency aid, right? Or firefighters sometimes they need to get somewhere. They use drones in the way. So Dutch police have an army of eagles that they have trained to fly up to drones and snatch them out of the sky. I'm not making this up. This is actually because some of these drones are only, they're small, right?
Yeah, but these are little drones.
But these are like the recreational drones.
Right.
The bigger drones are usually controlled by government, but like drone hobbyists, drone enthusiasts, they're usually flying smallish drones. And eagles can take down, large animals. So they've trained these eagles to attack these drones and rip them out of the sky, which is pretty hardcore.
Well, there you go.
Right, dude. Every problem's got a solution.
Yeah, I'm not.
When in doubt, send an eagle.
You got to see the video.
Right,
I'll tweet out the video at BP Show because it's pretty hardcore. We got to look at what it might cost for the, quote, moonshot that President Barack Obama laid out in his State of the Union for Joe Biden to end cancer, wipe out cancer. The total price tag that they asked for yesterday, $1 billion. $1 billion. That is the cost to put together this cancer moonshot task force. And they say that is what they need. So they're putting that into the budget. See if they get it.
Not a lot of money when it comes to government.
Yeah, $1 billion here, $1 billion there, Eventually you talk about real money, and then how it goes. And how about this? Google, which is now known as Alphabet, they've changed their whole structure, is now the biggest company in the world. It's bigger than Apple, which has held the title for quite some time now. Yesterday, Google reported profit and sales that topped their estimates, that puts it ahead of Apple. Now, they say that the big thing here is their online sales have gone through the roof, and they've put tighter cost controls into place. This is part of the whole restructuring thing that they're doing with Alphabet being the parent company of Google. So it's technically Alphabet is the biggest company, not Google.
Right.
But we all know what's really going on with Google. So
it's those internet ads, my oh my.
Yeah, I mean they're saying that was enough to really put them way over the top, especially in an election
cycle. Have you ever been to the Google's offices or like any of their work?
I've never been.
Honest to God.
I'm sure they're crazy.
I wouldn't say it's like a country club. It's just like a really fun place to work. The rooms you can go in. You're just bored, you can go in and play video games, or you can go take a nap.
I mean, it's no Bill Press Studios, but
no. It sounds a lot like our place.
They have a kitchen operating full time. They serve breakfast, lunch. If people are working late, and dinner there. It's incredible.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you're the biggest company in the world. I guess you get those kind of perks.
All right, Igor, we know you were up late last night watching the results. Let's read the tea leaves this morning. Is Donald Trump finished?
Well, lots of people have erred in making that prediction, certainly. Look, certainly this is the first kind of prick in the Donald Trump balloon, right? That he's put himself out there as a winner, as someone who will make America great again, who's unstoppable. And here he is, comes in second even though the expectation was he was going to win this thing.
And the polls all showed.
All showed. And clearly there was a problem in his ground game that he couldn't translate all of that enthusiasm and all of those huge rallies to actual caucus goers. So there's now, for the first time publicly for the Donald, there's this big gap between what he says and what actually happens. And
what he delivers, yeah.
What he delivers. And all these Trump supporters last night literally crying about his law, saying all he wanted to do was make America great again. So now he moves to New Hampshire.
Sarah Palin crying.
Yeah, crying, where he has a big lead, but that's going to narrow because of a strong performance by Marco Rubio. But anyway, has anyone ever been so excited about third place?
I'm telling you, man.
So excited about the bronze.
Yeah.
I mean, he was doing somersaults. Tighten with Rubio, tighten with Cruz, who's, of course, the winner. And is there going to be room for Trump? And how is Trump going to react? He's here now really against the wall. If he loses New Hampshire, this thing is over for him. The expectations game is over. He's done for. He's going to fold. The New York Daily News this morning has a headline, Sad Clown. And it has a picture of him in clown makeup with kind of a very depressed look on his face. Can he recover from this? We'll see.
Yeah, sad clown walking or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
dead clown walking.
Dead clown
walking. Even worse. You know, I got. He came in second. He down by 4. He did get a lot of first-time voters out. Just obviously not enough.
And did so without campaigning in Iowa like others do, without sleeping in Iowa for months, without going to all the pizza ranches that you have to go to. In some respects, it's really impressive what he did.
It is. It's just that the expectations
so
were so high.
Huge.
Because, he bragged about it so much.
This was a really interesting political experiment, right? Because we saw all these things. We saw how he was playing it out, and we knew that it was a totally different thing. And it just didn't work in Iowa.
And there is some truth to this idea that we've been saying for a long, long time, that when voters actually have to cast a vote, have to make a decision, in Iowa publicly, elsewhere privately, are they going to pull the lever for Trump?
And you know,
not enough of them did this
A lot of the voters that are going to be voting for Trump are angry voters who aren't necessarily all that interested in getting organized the way that you have to be in Iowa. So moving forward, where you just have to show up, vote, and leave,
maybe it's easier
I think it's
him.
Big time advantage Trump.
Yes, and I think we saw Mike Huckabee drop out yesterday.
Oh,
he did so. Huckabee did so with a sick little joke. I don't know whether you heard his statement. Here he is.
The main thing I need to say to you tonight is that as we come here tonight, it's time to officially suspend the campaign, but not because of the votes. It's because of illness. Obviously, the voters are sick of me, and I need to acknowledge that.
God. That's the best part about him leaving. We're not going to be subjected to his humor anymore.
The worst dad jokes.
I mean, that also brings up a good point. Iowa is the first in the nation, but it's not significant. Just ask Presidents Rick Santorum and Mike Huckabee, who won Iowa in 2012 and 2008 and went nowhere after.
All right. So, does this slow Bernie down, or does he still have a lot of momentum in New Hampshire? Or does this is this just further make Hillary the inevitable nominee?
New Hampshire's always a big state for Bernie. We always thought it would be. He's up very, very big in New Hampshire. He did well in Iowa. I mean, he came 0.4% is the difference here?
Yeah.
Who would have thought months ago, remember when he announced for president,
Tell me about it,
outside of the Capitol, and maybe 5, 6 reporters were there, kind of asking him these questions. Really, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
And he really kind of beat all expectations in many ways. So now he moves to New Hampshire. He's probably going to win there if you look at the polls now. The question is, where does he go from there? South Carolina is a very big Hillary state. He's way down in South Carolina. Then you get into all the Super Tuesday states. So it's hard to see, at least for me, Nevada caucuses, how the math works for him. But maybe this will give him kind of a boost here and grow his momentum, and maybe he'll be more competitive in these future races.
Yeah. I know he wanted to win last night. I don't think he had to win last night in the sense. I think a very close second is
very close.
Very close, yeah. And good enough to really keep him alive and give him the sufficient momentum to win big in New Hampshire.
He proved that he wasn't a regional candidate who can only succeed in New Hampshire or Vermont. He can go into the heartland of America and come so close into almost kicking off what was many saw as the inevitable Democratic nominee.
Right. Hey, Jamie, we've got Hillary last night and Bernie. Now, they, because it took so long to figure out the Democratic caucus primary, they were both on a plane to New Hampshire when it became final. But before she left, Hillary very happy with her showing.
I stand here tonight breathing a big sigh of relief. Thank you, Iowa.
Yeah, indeed.
That was a great speech, by the way, from her. So much
relief.
energy.
Yeah.
I thought she did well there.
Yeah, she did. And Bernie, with a very in good spirit, congratulating Secretary Clinton.
I want to take this opportunity to congratulate Secretary Clinton. Somebody,
Yup. Go ahead.
I'll send her an email.
Organization.
Yeah. And Ben Carson was the only one who had the original thought last night. Yeah. Ben Carson, what's next on his schedule?
Believe it or not, I'm actually going to go home and get a fresh change of clothes. And that doesn't mean that you're suspending your campaign. It doesn't mean that you're bowing out.
No.
He put out, by the way, a statement last night. He came in fourth place. He put out a statement. My campaign has never been stronger.
Yeah.
Never been stronger.
But this is a crazy thing to point out. But, we've done back before. We did like 2 weeks out on the road. I ran out of fresh clothes. I went to a laundromat and I washed my clothes. I didn't fly home, get new clothes, and then fly back. I just cleaned my dirty clothes. I mean...
That's what people do when they're
right.
on the road.
And if you really want to live crazy, you could go buy new clothes for cheaper than it would cost to fly to Florida to get new clothes.
There's some killer pro tips
I'm just saying, guys.
When traveling,
pro tip,
don't
if you
go
got to
home.
travel and you run out of clean clothes, there are other solutions before you fly back home to get other ones.
Yes, but I just want to point out, I think I had the wisest advice of all, which is, you do not fly to Florida to get clothes for New Hampshire.
Yes.
I need t-shirts and shorts.
I got
right?
a great deal on some Bermuda shorts. While I was in Florida, they're going to be my knees will be cold when I'm in New Hampshire, but I got very long socks. And I got a new Tommy Bahama shirt.
Just gotta wear it.
Igor Volsky, we're ready for your calls. What did you think about it last night? Are you happy with how Hillary did and how Bernie did? 866-55-PRESS. Here we go. We'll be right back.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
This is the story of my grandfather. When I was 19 years old, his right hand was crushed in a printing press. He was supposed to lose the hand, but a young doctor saved it just in time for the war. This is the story of the war. My grandfather repaired tanks. Behind the front lines, away from the cameras, he would pull pieces of dead men from the machines and send the machines back out to the field. This is the story of the war a decade later. Back then, you didn't talk about depression. There was no such thing as PTSD. When my uncle, age 7, asked him who won the war, my grandfather said, nobody. This is the story of my grandfather, the machinist. I have a newspaper from 1981, a story about the Nobel Prize for Physics, a photograph of the winner, a Harvard man standing by his machines. This man is not my grandfather. Beneath the photo, my grandfather has written, I designed and built almost everything in this picture. They worked together for 10 years, but my grandmother says the physicist never even remembered his name. If you asked that Harvard man, there would be no story of my grandfather, just a pair of disembodied hands. This is the problem with stories. They have to leave something out. The editor cuts a line and someone's face fades. The editor says 200 words or less and suddenly a whole family goes missing. The spotlight isn't about the light, it's how it makes everything around it dark. My grandfather's face is erased from every story. The machines survive, but the man who made them doesn't. The machines make the photo, but their maker is out of frame. But we choose where to point the camera. We can choose how to tell the story. We can choose which clothing the hero wears. I could tell you this is a story about a soldier, or I could tell you this is a story about the blue-collar man, but really, this is just the story of my grandfather. I did not know him. I was born too late, but my family tells me his name. Alfred Franzosa. I know that name might only live in this moment, that there are other stories with greater stakes, but still, I will tell you his name. I will repair this old machine. I will let my grandfather live again because I could not know him while he was living. Once, when he was younger than I am now, his right hand was crushed by a printing press, crushed by other people's stories. When it healed, he began to build. He used his hands to build tanks and his hands to build cradles. His hands were the last thing to touch dead soldiers and the first to touch his newborn sons. He built a good family, and that family built me, and now I use my hands to build his story. The story is not a eulogy. A eulogy seals the casket. A eulogy lets no air out. This story is a resurrection. Jesus was not resurrected by God. He was brought back by the people who told his stories. It does not take a miracle to raise the dead, to leave behind the tombstone and take the name with you.
Society.org. You'll get the information that
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Whoa, already 27 minutes after the hour here with Igor Volsky. Breaking news.
Breaking news. Today is Groundhog Day, and the groundhog did not see his shadow, so spring is coming early.
Yes, melt, snow, melt.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Here it comes.
Yeah.
Ready to take
We
that
do not
sweater
get
off.
6 more weeks of winter.
Well, you know what? Yeah.
We barely had a winter at all.
Right.
So
And it was enough. It was enough. We don't need more.
we got it all at once.
Hey, quickly, Jim out in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Hello, Jim. What do you say?
Good morning, Bill. Good to
Yeah.
have you on the show. I'm calling to take issue with Peter. Hey, listen, washaterias, laundromats, washing our own clothes. Don't give away all of our democratic secrets.
That's our edge right there.
Yeah. Pro tip from me to you.
Republicans, they live in the high ether. They need to fly home to use the toilet or change the clothes, okay? Guys, have a good day.
See you, man.
right,
Thanks,
thank you,
dude.
Jim. Yeah. Well, New Hampshire's going to be fun. And we have the town hall tomorrow night.
Yes.
On CNN with just Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. And then, I guess, a debate just between the two of them Thursday
And
night.
then Saturday, a GOP debate.
Saturday
ABC.
Saturday GOP
Yeah.
debate. So this time next week, no, we won't be able to talk about the results from New Hampshire, but
We'll pre-game. We'll preview them and pre-game.
Pre-game show here next week with Igor Volsky. Thank you, Igor.
Thanks,
Always
Bill.
good to see you. Right.
This is the Bill Press Show.
have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power,
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
The Iowa Republicans have spoken, and the winner is Ted Cruz. Be careful what you wish for. This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, here we go. 33 minutes after the hour. It's a big Tuesday, February 2nd. Of course, the morning after. You know what? And we're coming to you live with the results from your nation's capital here in Washington, D.C., where we're brought to you today by the American Federation of Government Employees. Yes, the good men and women of the AFGE under President J. David Cox, proud to work for America every day. Check out their website at afge.org. If you're just waking up or just tuning in or just catching up, it's official on the Republican side. 28 for Ted Cruz. The big winner, Donald Trump, second place at 24, but Marco Rubio very close behind, less than a percentage point behind Donald Trump at 23. The rest are just sort of also ran. And on the Democratic side, a virtual tide, but the tilt goes to Hillary Clinton, eking out a victory, 49.9% over Bernie Sanders at 49.5%. So close that I think Associated Press has refused to call it.
Some people haven't called it yet. Yeah.
Right. But most are saying that's where it is. Hillary getting 29 delegates and Bernie 21. Let's jump out to Eureka, California. Hello, Jake.
Hi, Bill. How's it going?
All right, good. What do you think? What's that all mean?
I think the Republican results in Iowa are good news for the Democrats. I think if we can keep this Republican race going for months, maybe all the way to the convention, it's going to hurt the Republicans severely. So Rubio being viable as a third option, I think it's a good thing. Rubio might even win South Carolina. So, if we keep this thing going, it'll be good for us.
I think you're right. You keep it going. The more candidates that stay in, the better. And if they keep attacking each other, and by the way, I think that may be one of the things that we haven't talked about that yet. One of the things that hurt Donald Trump is, his attacks against Ted Cruz got pretty nasty, pretty personal. Well, against Ted Cruz, against everybody.
Everybody who dared to challenge him. I mean, that's one of the things
pretty nasty and pretty personal.
That's one of the things that Iowa voters apparently don't like very much. They don't like that negativity, and he's a pretty negative candidate.
Right. In Elgin, Illinois. Hey, Ron, thanks for joining us.
Good morning, folks. Happy for Bernie. He was professional last night, as he always has been, but I was disappointed in Hillary in her early declaration of victory when none of the major news organizations were even close to saying that she was going to win. I thought that was unprofessional on her part. Having said that, will I still vote for her? Sure, I will vote for her if she gets the nomination.
Yeah, I think she was. I thought I don't know. It didn't bother me. I thought she was celebrating the moment. You know what I think? What it was, Ron? I think she was maybe a little surprised and very happy that she didn't lose.
Right.
I mean, it was clear that she was not going to lose. It was going to be very, very close because there were times when Bernie was 3-4 points up ahead of her, and if he had done that, that would have been really bad news for Hillary. She had more to lose in Iowa than he did for sure.
Yeah. The whole her sort of jumping out in front didn't bother me all that much. I think that she really just sort of grabbed onto the momentum of the night. But yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure here, Jamie. Is this our?
Let's take a call. Can we go take a call?
Take another call. Right. Charles, out in Denver. Hello, Charles. What's up?
A whole lot. Listen, I'm quite pleased with the results for both candidates. I happen to have Hillary and Bernie Sanders bumper stickers on my vehicle.
Good for you.
I'm going to caucus for Bernie Sanders when they're out here in Colorado, but I will gladly vote for whomever we get in November.
Hey, now, Charles, you said something that I wasn't sure. Is Colorado another caucus state? I thought
Colorado is a caucus state.
Whoa! I thought that was the primary state. I know Nevada's a caucus state. I didn't realize Colorado is too. So let me just ask you, because a lot of people are having this, wrestling with this. Why Bernie over Hillary?
I'm an old '60s Democrat, and I'm trying to bring the center has gone so far to the right that Bernie is helping to push us at least back to some semblance of what we used to have. We're going to have to go a long way to get back to the Democrats of the '60s, and I think Bernie Sanders would actually, even though he's calling himself a social Democrat, back in the '60s he would have been just a normal old Democrat.
Yeah. Now, if you look at the issues he's talking about, right, there are issues that you and I all grew up fighting for and supporting.
There are issues that Eisenhower would have been in favor of. I mean, come on.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Charles, good to hear from you. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. And you feel the burn out there in Colorado. On to Chicago and the great WCPT. Here is Gene. Gene, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Bill. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. What's up?
like the last caller, I'm really glad that both Hillary and Bernie did well. I'm for either. More so Hillary, because I feel like she wears the battle scars. I mean, this woman can take a punch.
She has, and she's taken a lot of them over the years, right?
Yes. And so I would really love to see her win, but I mean, I would support either candidate. And I was really, really thrilled that Donald lost. I prayed for that. I really wanted him to lose. I want Ted Cruz. Donald Trump scares me, and I fear that they may give it to him.
So you would
Ted
like,
Cruz?
as a Democrat, you would like to see Ted Cruz as the Republican nominee, is what you're saying?
Absolutely. They hate him. It's like Mitt Romney. They don't like him. So it makes it an easier win for us.
Yeah, I agree. I think he'd be the ideal candidate from a Democratic point of view for the Republicans to run. You know, and I got to say too, with Hillary, when I was on CNN the other day, they said, "So you're a Bernie Sanders supporter?" And I said, "Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm for the Democratic nominee, and I'm clearly a friend of Bernie's and love Bernie, love what he stands for." Hope he's the nominee, but no doubt in my mind, and it looks like it's still most likely would be Hillary the nominee. That's fine with me. She brings, I think, she does, flat out, would bring more experience to the job of president than anybody else who has run in our lifetime. One more call here before we take a quick break. John is out. Here we go. By the way, yes, indeed, it's a time to remind you once again, we are so pleased to be back as part of the lineup on KTNF in the Minneapolis, the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul. Thank you so much for joining us and getting us back on the air out there. A lot of you been pushing for that for a long time. Here we are, and it's John. Hello, John.
Hi. Yeah, I just wanted to say I've been up since I was up at 12 o'clock at the Bernie Sanders headquarters watching the results come in with people that were, more than half my age probably. And I'm, hopeful and also somewhat discouraged, but, it's, I think, a win in a sense for Bernie since he was so far behind. And I think from what I hear, 60% of the votes in Iowa came from people of my age group more than the youngest, the millennials and younger. So,
look, I think this is John. It's interesting that you were at a watch party last night at the Bernie headquarters in Minneapolis, but I think this is a win for Bernie. I mean, maybe he's not the winner of the primary, but for him to start out 45 points behind when he did, right? At least 45 points behind in Iowa, and then almost beat the big Clinton machine. It's incredible. It's phenomenal. And you add that to the amount of volunteers that he had and the amount of contributions that he got, which he announced. Absolutely incredible. We'll take a quick break, and as we do, let me remind you again that today is the publication date for my new books. We're getting a lot of noise and a lot of buzz. Buyer's Remorse talks about all the good things President Obama's done, but also points out there are ways when as progressives, let's just be honest, he didn't follow through. He let us down. The name of the book, Buyer's Remorse, How Obama Let Progressives Down. You can get your signed copy any way you want to sign or inscribe. Now's the time to do it. Go to our website, BillPressShow.com. As of today, you can also pick it up if you want to read it right away in your local bookstore or get it online at Amazon.com. Buyer's Remorse, get your copy today. BillPressShow.com. We'll be right back.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at Facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
It occurred to me tonight, for the first time, that the long-winged insect that over and over again rams its body into the wood of my front door might not know what he's doing. He might not have a plan. Maybe that's just how he flies, and that is where the door is. And I remember you, the last time I saw you, a few weeks before we would graduate from high school, and a few days before you let a bullet dissolve on your tongue, dancing in a warehouse rave, sweat-drenched and strobe light battered, thrashing your arms back and thrusting them forward. The floor could get so bright and loud, we all slowed down to be more careful, but you kept dancing full sprint tornado, and sometimes you'd spin full weight into a wall and just spread your arms against it and sway back and forth like a lover reunited. This long-winged insect is not trying to get into the house. It doesn't know there is a house. Can't imagine a life beyond that door. All it can see is the light. You and I were both 17 when you died. And ever since then, I have envied you. How you are remembered for towering, unclaimed potential instead of living to look regret in the face. You didn't have to come home 3 weeks later and explain to your little brother why you took too much medicine. Your addiction is remembered as a tragedy, not a betrayal. Your suicide attempt became a suicide, not an unpaid hospital bill. And only tonight did it occur to me that maybe that night when you let your teeth touch metal, you might not have known what you were doing. You might not have had a plan. Maybe you had hit that door so many times you couldn't imagine it might let you through. I'm still ashamed to admit it, but I have always secretly believed you did it for me, that you wanted to show me that there is a way out of all of this. Not so that I would follow you, but so I would understand that every day that I am alive is a day that I choose to be alive. And when the music stops, you still get to keep on dancing. And when the light is so bright it blinds, you can dance with your eyes closed. And if in that dark you come up against a wall, you keep your arms out wide and you dance with the wall.
/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR TV.
Here we go at 14 minutes before the top of the hour. Peter Fenn, Democratic strategist, will be here to walk us through everything between now and the conventions in the next hour. As a friend of Bill, we'll also bounce out to Iowa and check in with Evan McMorris Santoro from BuzzFeed. Meanwhile, in Iowa, on the trail with Bernie Sanders, Charlie Pierce, the lead political blogger for Esquire, and he joins us on our newsline early this morning. Hey, Charlie, good to have you with us. Good morning.
Good morning, Bill. How are you?
All right. So you've been following Bernie around. Did you? Do you think the Sanders campaign? I know they wanted to win, but are they still pleased with their showing last night?
I think they'd have to be. The voters in the great state of Iowa blessed a 74-year-old socialist with what he calls a virtual tie.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's an amazing result.
Especially where he started.
In light of what could have happened a year ago.
Yeah, I was going to say, especially from where he started, right? And he was not even a blip on the screen out there then. Yeah. What did it for him? His appeal among, and you wrote about this too, his appeal among young voters I found to be stunning.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it is. I mean, there's a lot of things. I think his message was appealing.
Yeah.
But I think in his own interesting way, he became kind of a celebrity. It became a Bernie Sanders rallies turned into great dates. It became a thing to go see him, and it was really remarkable because he didn't do very well among voters his own age.
Yeah, they tended to go with Hillary.
Yeah, I mean it's really quite amazing, and I think you can trace. You can trace, and this is something I did the other day. You can trace a lot of the dynamic that produced the result last night for Bernie Sanders all the way back, I think, to the Jackson campaigns in '84 and '88. There's this strain of activist progressivism that is constant and consistent from then till now. It goes underground at various levels, but it evinced itself, I think, during the Clinton impeachment, where it was progressives and most notably African American progressives who were Bill Clinton's firewall against impeachment. That produced among other things, MoveOn.org, and it showed up again, I think, in the aftermath of the 2000 fiasco in Florida, in the reaction on the progressive left, which was largely ignored, to the Iraq War, to the launching of the Iraq War, and then to the opposition to the Iraq War. You saw it emerge, I think, in the Dean campaign in '04. Even though it didn't, it really didn't go anywhere then. And I think you saw a lot of it as the power behind the Obama election in 2008. And I think there's a straight line from Jesse Jackson at the 1988 Democratic Convention to what we saw in Iowa last night.
So how far can that progressive revolution, if you will, that Bernie's been talking about, how far can it take us in 2016? All the way to convention, all the way to the nomination, all the way to the White House?
I'm not sure on the latter two. I think it can certainly take it to the convention. He's got a lot of money, and he's going to have a lot more after last night, and he's going to have a lot more after he wins New Hampshire. Now that'll get fobbed off as it's coming from a neighboring state. But you know as well as I do that the political culture in New Hampshire is radically different than the political culture in Vermont.
Yeah, night and day.
Yeah,
right.
and I mean, Vermont produces, if you go back through history, Vermont produces great politicians, going back to George Aiken and Pat Leahy, and New Hampshire,
Howard
not
Dean
so much.
and Howard,
but
right.
I think if he wins there, and I think I don't really know what the Clinton people will do in New Hampshire. Whether they'll just concede it and then move, or put up a nominal effort and then move on. But if once he wins there, he's going to get a lot of money, and he's going to have the wherewithal to put up a fight practically everywhere. And I don't think that's something the Clinton people anticipated.
No, and he's going to go into. He'll go into. We're talking Philadelphia, right? Philadelphia for the convention.
Right. Yes.
He's going to go in there with a big bunch of delegates. Behind her, but certainly
once again,
a
going
challenge.
back to the Jackson campaign, you got to remember Jesse Jackson went into the 1988 Democratic Convention with 1,200 delegates. That's a lot, and I think there's certainly a chance he can make that mark.
Yeah, I didn't realize that Jesse had that many.
Yeah, I didn't either.
And the speech that Jesse Jackson gave in Atlanta at that convention was, I still remember it. It was remarkable.
Yeah, that was the we must unify. And if you look at some of what he ran on, it's not all that dissimilar from what Bernie's running on. I mean, he ran on single-payer health care. He ran on at that point it was the Equal Rights Amendment, but it had a lot to do with pay equity and paid family and medical leave. And he ran on free community college tuition. So I mean, this is the thing that Bernie Sanders' proposals, while you can argue about their political viability given the political climate that exists now, they're not that far out of the mainstream. I mean, on financial regulation, he's essentially running on reestablishing a financial regime that worked pretty well for 70 years. And that's not that radical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I mean, the stuff he talks about, even, minimum wage, income inequality, equal pay, across the board, family sick leave. These are things that average Americans, I think, see the advantage of and can support. He's not.
Yeah, I mean,
he's not a barn burner.
I think asking whether or not, he will have the political wherewithal, should he be, in the off chance that he's elected, to get a lot of these done, I think it's a legitimate question. But I don't think to me, it's not a deal-breaking question. Because I don't know how much, given the nature of the Republican Party, I don't know how much President Hillary Clinton's going to be able to get done either.
And I'll tell you, I don't think I'm one of the few, maybe you and I are the only two, who believe that Bernie Sanders is electable nationwide. I don't care if he's a socialist or a democratic socialist, whatever you call him. because his ideas are so solid. His ideas resonate with exactly what the American people are looking for today. At any rate, hey, Charlie, you're good to join us this morning. Thanks so much. Great work, by the way, covering this campaign. Really good stuff.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Bill.
All right,
Have a good
thanks.
day.
Esquire.com is where you find Charlie Pierce, lead political blogger.
Your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is The Bill Press Show.
Okay, so here we go. Iowa's behind us. Now, what's it all mean? Nobody to tell us that better than Peter Fenn, Democratic strategist, joins us as a friend of Bill in our next hour, and then we'll bounce out to Iowa and say hello to our buddy Evan McMorris Santoro from BuzzFeed on the ground in Iowa with Bernie Sanders. All of that coming up right here, hour number 3. Delay until 5 p.m. Eastern on Free Speech TV, but you can catch us right away live on our video stream, youtube.com/Tawker, Tawkr TV.
For Mike Brown. I'm sick of writing this poem, but bring the boy. His new name, his same old body, ordinary black dead thing, bring him. And we will mourn until we forget what we are mourning. And isn't that what being black is about? Not the joy of it, but the feeling when you're looking at your child, turn your head, then poof, no more child. That feeling, that's black. Think, once a white girl was kidnapped, and that's the Trojan War. Later, up the block, Troy got shot, and that was Tuesday. Are we not worthy of a city of ash, of 1,000 ships launched because we are missed? I demand a war to bring the black boy back, no matter what his name is this time. I at least demand a song. A song will do. Or a head.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Brought to you by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, the American Red Cross, and the Ad Council.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Peter Fenn here at the top of the next hour. Richard, here's a quick call from Richard from out in Indianapolis.
Okay, gamers, rise and shine. Don't forget your booties because it's cold out there today. It's cold out there every day. What is this?
Yo!
Expect hazardous travel with that blizzard thing. Oh, that's right. Central Weather Service is calling for a big blizzard thing. But another reason people are especially excited.
Richard, is this Richard from Groundhog Day? Richard Hensel?
Hi. Yeah, hi, how are you?
Hey, man, thanks for calling in.
Oh, my God. A celebrity call.
That's pretty awesome.
I'm shooting a movie down here in Indianapolis. I live in Chicago.
Happy Groundhog Day, man. Groundhog Day is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Absolutely.
A lot of people love that film.
Oh, yes, we do indeed. And love you, too, and love the fact that you took time to call. All right. Next to getting a call from the groundhog, that's the best thing that could happen.
That's awesome, man.
All right.
It's the Bill Press Show.
hardest moments for me is when I'm laying awake in the middle of the night and I'm thinking about all the times I made a pitcher of Kool-Aid with the water, or I boiled a pot of corn or potatoes with the water. Those thoughts just stick with me in the middle of the night, and I feel horrible as a mom that I didn't know that something was wrong, but how could I have known? There's no way I would have known.
The spill at Dan River happened when a drainage pipe that ran underneath an ash basin and dam collapsed, sucking out 6 decades of waste and spewing gunk directly into the river.
My husband and I just kind of looked at each other like, should we be concerned? We live right next to an ash pond, and this was coal ash spilling into the Dan River, and we learned at that point all of the toxins that were included in coal ash.
A situation like Dan River, where there was a catastrophic disaster, gets people's attention, but the fact is that these coal ash pits have been leaking and poisoning people's groundwater and the state's surface waters for decades. Coal ash is the residue left behind after coal is burned in a coal-fired power plant. A large coal-fired power plant can burn 10 million tons of coal a year. When the organic matter in the coal is burned away, what's left behind are these trace minerals, things like arsenic, lead, mercury, selenium, and chromium. And these are highly concentrated. The coal ash can have concentrations of these contaminants that are 10 to 100 times greater than the level in the coals themselves.
Coal ash pond number 1 is right behind my house, literally pretty much in my backyard. We were approached by a neighbor who was wanting to have their well tested, and we decided that maybe we should have ours tested as well. They found hexavalent chromium at 4.5 parts per billion.
So in talking to the residents, we have discovered anecdotal evidence of an extraordinary number of cancers for this fairly small community.
Some of us in the community got together. We started kind of talking about all the cancer that we've seen in some of our family friends in this community. I think we had somewhere in the neighborhood of around 70 names. So we had some help from our river keepers putting a map together, and it was a little shocking to see it. You know, I still have a hard time looking at it.
Technically, EPA has not regulated coal ash as a hazardous waste, but it is undeniable that coal ash contains many, many hazardous substances that are hazardous, in fact, to people and the environment. And the only reason they have not been regulated as such is because of intense lobbying efforts by the coal industry and its allies.
A lot of these chemicals are simple elements, but when you find them at the levels that they exist in around coal ash ponds, then you're starting to talk about cancer, brain tumors, you're talking about birth defects, developmental problems, neurotoxicity.
We began to look at legal options, cases that we could bring in court to protect communities and their citizens from these toxic leaking time bombs. In 2002, North Carolina enacted a public financing mechanism for judicial elections. This kept private money out of judicial elections.
The repeal of the public financing program in judicial elections in North Carolina creates a dangerous precedent for all, and it gives corporate polluters and other special interests the opportunity to elect the judges that they want. And this is important for us all. Everyone should care about this. Because when you think about the fact that the state and the federal government have basically abdicated their responsibility to regulate these issues, the state courts are the last stopgap.
I think this is no longer a problem that's going to go under the radar. It has been exposed, and I am confident that we will ultimately, with the facts, win out and ensure that we have protected waterways.
And so this is something that we all should care about. If we're worried about the water we drink and the air we breathe, we have to be concerned about money and judicial elections.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
The caucuses are over. The votes are in. Ted Cruz walking away with it on the Republican side. Hillary Clinton squeaking out of it on the Democratic side. Hello, everybody. Here we go. The morning after the Bill Press, the morning after the caucuses edition of the Bill Press Show. From Washington, D.C., we're heading out to you all the way across this great land of ours, coast to coast, on your local progressive talk radio station and on Free Speech TV worldwide on our video stream, TawkrTV. This is the moment we've been waiting for. We finally got out of the preliminaries, and we're right down into now. We actually have some votes cast and some delegates already committed. Lots to talk about. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. What does it all mean to you, and where do we go from here? Nobody better to walk us through the results of last night all the way up to the convention in Philadelphia or in Cleveland, where they all lead. Peter Fenn, Democratic strategist. Hello, Peter.
Hello, Bill.
We live for these moments, right?
We sure do. We stay up late and get up early.
How many have we been through? I don't know, but here we go. Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson here are leading the pack as well this morning. The team.
Bill.
Ray Rogers. Busy this morning taking your calls at 866-55-PRESS, and Cyprian Bolding, our videographer, on the job as well. And let us say a great big shout out to all of our good friends in the Twin Cities, the great cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. We are so excited to be back on the air. KTNF AM in Minneapolis, St. Paul.
950 on the AM dial. Find it. Lock it in.
Find it. Lock it in. Join us every day. And we've been talking about coming out there.
That's my old stomping ground, you know.
That's
right. I did know that.
McAllister College in St. Paul.
Yeah.
So all you McAllister students better turn on your radio right now.
How about
All
that?
right, there you go.
How about that?
Yeah,
I like it.
We love going out there. I'm going to be out for the Blue State Ball at the end of the month.
Great.
26, maybe, I think it is. I'll check the date. At any rate, you know when it is, all your loyal listeners, and we will see you there. I know Tom Hartman's going to be there as well. Have a great time. So Peter, everybody did well last night, except maybe Jeb Bush didn't do so well. he spent a lot of money for very few votes, didn't
It
he?
was something like, what was it, $2,884 a vote. Now, I'd tell you, if I were an Iowa voter, just hand me a check, baby. I mean, I'm with you.
I don't want to say I'm a whore, but I would have done it. I would have voted for less.
You would have gone for less.
Yeah,
Undercut those voters.
You would have
man.
gone for the $2,700, the maximum contribution. Then there's super PAC craziness that
And he
he's got going.
bought a lot of ads. But as Stephen Colbert pointed out last night, obviously all that money on those ads didn't really pay off. Here he
More
goes.
than $70 million has been spent on campaign ads in Iowa alone, including $15 million by Jeb Bush's super PAC. And yet, Jeb is still polling below 4%. And some people are surprised, but it makes sense to me that ads can't help that much, because if they did, the 2016 caucus would be won by Flo, the progressive lady.
That's progressive.
There you go.
I know. Every time I see a commercial progressive, I say, yeah, I'm for that. I'm for that. I'm a progressive, right? Peter Fenn here for us the entire hour as a friend of Bill, and we're going to wake up Evan McMorris Santoro from BuzzFeed. People, definitely, literally, I'm sure we're going to wake him up.
They were up all night long. Literally. I mean, if you go back and look at his tweets, and you
Is
look
that right?
at, he
Okay.
and I were talking at 4 a.m. this
Oh,
morning.
man, then he'll be in rare shape.
He might have caught a cat nap.
All right, okay. From BuzzFeed, he'll be joining us at the half hour. But first,
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Late last month, there was a flight that went from Los Angeles to Minneapolis. It was a flight on the Boeing 757 where two of the flight attendants had a little bit of a disagreement on the flight. This was a Delta flight, and the two flight attendants actually got into a fist fight.
No.
During the flight from LA to Minneapolis. It got so bad, as a matter of fact, they had to make an unscheduled stop in Salt Lake City. They had to divert the plane, put the plane down, because these flight attendants could not get it together.
Men,
Delta,
women?
No
gender.
No gender was identified in this. Delta did put out a statement, says it was they've apologized to the customers who were inconvenienced by the unscheduled stop, and they didn't say anything else about the actual flight attendants. If you were a Sky Miles member, you received free miles. If you weren't a Sky Miles member, you got a free travel voucher to fly on Delta. Again, hopefully the flight attendants won't engage in another fist fight on that flight. I told you last hour that Alphabet, the parent company of Google, has now overtaken Apple as the biggest company in the world. One of the things that they did sort of put out there, which was very interesting, was that there are now 1 billion monthly users of Gmail, the Google email service. 1 billion people use it. Now, Gmail doesn't just do email. It's, you got GChat and things like that are involved in it. So 1 billion people are using it.
Amazing.
They also pointed out some interesting things about how much money they lost. They lost about $80 million on things like the self-driving car and other projects that are sort of top secret that they're still working on. They're throwing money at these projects that aren't necessarily taking off, but are, R&D. I guess you could put it that way. And the long national nightmare is over. I've got you up to speed on the Chipotle beat, Bill. Well, yesterday, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said that the E. coli virus and the scare that had been sort of sweeping Chipotle chains across the country is officially over. It has been contained. There were 2 separate outbreaks in Chipotle, plus also a norovirus outbreak. All of these have been fixed. The 11 states that were affected, it's all been taken care of. No more problems at Chipotle. The CDC says it's safe to eat there again.
All right. Okay.
And their stock is going up.
And their stock
is it back up?
Yeah,
it's got to go back up.
It was, yeah.
No, I'm glad.
go back up.
They're a good chain, and that was a little troubling there for a while. But okay, we can go
They
back.
got it together.
We can go
They
back
got it
to
together.
back to Chipotle. All right, let's start. Peter, what does this mean? Have you ever seen a race as close as it ended here on the Democratic side? And I just noticed MSNBC is still calling Hillary Clinton the apparent winner. Is there any doubt about
Well, it's by delegates. She seems to have more delegates. Obviously, her folks were also saying we're going to win the super delegates, so they were playing that game a little bit. But I think everybody's spooked by the 4 years ago when they said, Mitt Romney won the Iowa caucuses, and then they discover, oops, Santorum actually won them. They're obviously, will be spooked forever about 2000 and the Gore Bush race.
Cautious.
No,
yeah.
I think that. Yeah.
All right, but let's last numbers I saw. She had 49.9%. Bernie had 49.5%.
Right,
now, you and I learned a win is a win is a win. Right. So let's say she won.
Right.
But what does it mean for Bernie?
Well, I'll tell you what I think is going to happen and what most of us thought was going to happen before tonight, regardless of how close or who won it. This is going on. This is a long slog. First of all, most candidates drop out when they run out of money. Bernie ain't running out of money. Hillary ain't running out of money.
Right.
So this is going to go on into March, probably into April and longer. When you have over 3 million, he's saying now close to 3.5 million donors. The average donation is $27.
Yeah.
He's going to be able to raise more money. She's going to go out there and raise more money too. But to me, Bill, this is not a bad thing. To me, could it get tough? Could it get ugly? Could it be? Yeah, that's politics. But I tell you, I want those Democrats having debates in the next 3 months talking about the middle class, talking about inclusion, talking about solving immigration, talking about better education for our kids, talking about the precise issues that America does care about. And I want that contrast with the Republicans who are backward looking, who are, I'm going to call them. I mean, most, a lot of them are racist, they're homophobic, and I want that contrast out there. And if we didn't have a contest, it would be all about Hillary Clinton and her emails or whatever. And I think, ultimately this thing is going to end up with Hillary Clinton getting the nomination. To be perfectly honest, that could change. Things could happen. There, in politics, anything can happen. But I'm very happy to have Bernie in there. I'm very happy to have Hillary and he one-on-one on these debates. I think they'll be civil. I think they'll be really substantive, and a lot different from the Republican zoo that we've seen.
As we've seen so far in the debates, they really have been.
Right.
Okay, but what do you say to the Clinton people say, look, this is just an aberration. Of course, Bernie's going to win out there because it's all white, and he's going to win in New Hampshire because it's his neighboring state. But then we have the firewall.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a firewall in this campaign and any campaigns. I mean, the one thing that the folks are right about is, look, you had a very high turnout there. The 18 to 35-year-olds in the Seltzer poll, the Des Moines poll, they were for Bernie. 63% of them went for Bernie. 65 plus, 65% of them were supposedly for Hillary. You had a strong.
Isn't
they were
that
white.
Strange that he lost the people who are his age.
That's right.
And he got the people who are his grandchildren.
Look, he
Seriously.
he excited. No, I mean he excited these folks. But the other thing that came out of there was this is very liberal group. When they were asked, here's the precise question: it would be okay to have a president who describes himself as a democratic socialist. This is Democratic caucus-going voters in Iowa. 68% agree. I mean, and there was one other poll that showed 43% called themselves socialist, democratic socialist.
Wow.
So this ain't South Carolina here. This isn't even California. I mean, this is
But
a
can
unique
it translate beyond Iowa?
Oh yeah, I think he's going to do very well in a lot of states. I think this is going to be a back and forth. He's going to win. He's going to win a number of states, and so will she. But I don't think he's running the table. I don't think she's running. If she absolutely eviscerated him in Iowa, a 2-1 victory,
right.
and then he wins New Hampshire by a little bit, fine. Then it could slow down a bit. But look, he's got staff. He's got organization. He's got money. He's going to keep on going.
Right. You've run a lot of campaigns.
Yes. Too many, probably.
And you've worked with a lot of candidates. Have you ever seen a more unlikely or ungainly candidate than Bernie Sanders?
Well,
I love Bernie, you know, and he's a good friend,
right.
but he's awkward out in public. You see him even now. And
look,
you know,
there's a little bit, you know, everybody loves the nerd factor a little, you know, in a way. I mean, not that he's so super nerdy, but you know,
a little grouchy.
He's a little, he's kind of a grouchy. I mean, you watch him. I was amazed, you know, with their TV ad, they found like 3 shots of him smiling. I said, "Congratulations, where'd you get those?" That's pretty good. But you know, he sticks to his message. He knows what he believes. He's been giving the same speech for 40 years.
Yeah.
And God bless him. You know, and right now people are very receptive to this speech. So, you know, and people kind of like that. They look, one of my favorite posters of all time was Barney Frank when he first ran for Congress. Picture him, his hair's all over the place. He's wearing this coat with some spills on it or something. Yeah. And it says neatness isn't everything. You know, way to go. I mean, people kind of like that stuff.
Yeah. You know, there's I hadn't thought about that. A lot of similarities between Barney and Bernie.
Yeah, Barney and Bernie. I don't know whether Barney's feeling the burn or not, but
no, he's supporting Hillary.
Yeah,
I know
Hillary.
that.
I know that. Yeah.
Right.
I'm kidding.
Okay, we got to talk about the Democratic side, and we will too. Before we do, so there were like, Peter, I saw Fox. You said 3 earlier. Fox is reporting there were 6 caucuses in which they were an absolute tie, and they flipped a coin. Now,
literally,
yeah.
Is this democracy at work?
Well, that's pretty remarkable. I mean, there was that race. Where was it, in Arizona a couple of years ago? They did the same thing.
I mean, Iowa just has an importance way beyond its size or population.
You think about how much time people spend there, how much money they spend. You know, Iowans love it. This is listen, the Mercedes protection program for TV station owners out there, as we've just discovered how much money they spend.
Maybe they ought to just rotate it so that every state gets a turn.
I think that would be right.
I'd love to see that. I'd love to see
some other state.
I mean, suppose South Carolina starts it off sometime.
Yeah,
that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Or as Mayor Nutter last night said on CNN, Iowa about the same population as the city of Philadelphia. Now, I think the city of Philadelphia would be a little more representative of America than Iowa. Yeah,
100%.
All right. Republican side, Donald Trump, not a happy camper this morning. Peter Fenn with us, and your calls. Get that Ray Rogers working. 866-55-PRESS. Give us a call.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
Have you ever thought
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power.
My life. but I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, 25 minutes after the hour, Evan McMorris Santoro out in Iowa. Give him a call now. Wake him up. We're going to talk to him at the half hour. All right, now Peter Fenn here with us for the entire hour as a friend of Bill. So on the Republican side, just for those just joining us, it is Ted Cruz at 28%, the winner. Donald Trump, 4 points behind at 24%, but Marco Rubio less than a percentage point behind Donald Trump. That's the real story there, isn't it?
That's the real story. I tell you, I think the Marco Rubio showing here was amazing. I think Trump made some serious mistakes. Obviously, not showing up in that debate was not smart. And he gave Rubio an opening, and Rubio took it. And I tell you now,
Trump got a little nasty there too toward the end.
I think, I'm not sure the born in Canada stuff was all that helpful for him either. But bottom line of this is the Republicans, and if you want to call them the establishment, they now have an alternative. They have somebody that they can point to.
And they're as afraid of Cruz as they are of Trump, aren't they?
They hate Cruz. They think Cruz would be a disaster in November. They think he'd be a disaster as president. None of them can work with him. They don't trust him. And we talk about trust and honesty factor. They don't know what he's going to do. They know it's all about Ted Cruz, and he is, he's slicker than olive oil. I mean, this guy, I mean, the Republicans don't want him. So, I think their hope now is that there be, the mutually assured destruction between Cruz and Trump, and then somebody like Rubio will come through.
As we go into New Hampshire, is it a three-man race on the Republican side?
Well, I think the thing in New Hampshire is the other folks have been campaigning there hard. Kasich has been showing strong. For a while, Christie was showing there. Bush was trying to push it. But, this gives, I think, Marco Rubio a heck of a boost.
It was going to be one of those four, it seemed, right?
Right.
And the others really ignored Iowa.
Right.
and focused exclusively on New Hampshire.
New Hampshire. And, you know, some of them a little bit in Nevada and South Carolina,
Yeah.
too. But, you know, Senator Scott from South Carolina today is going to endorse Rubio. You know, if Rubio comes in a strong third in New Hampshire, I think it's good for him. I mean, conceivably, could he come in second? I don't know. But, you know, you've got somebody who could begin to roll. It also, Bill, will help his fundraising, which was beginning to slow. And he was beginning to have trouble with that.
I got to tell you, check the tape. I've always said that I thought he was the biggest threat on the Republican side. And we'll come back with Peter Fenn and joined by Evan McMorris-Santoro.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Across from me at the kitchen table, my mother smiles over red wine that she drinks out of a measuring glass. She says she doesn't deprive herself, but I've learned to find nuance in every movement of her fork, in every crinkle in her brow as she offers me the uneaten pieces on her plate. I've realized she only eats dinner when I suggest it. I wonder what she does when I'm not there to do so. Maybe this is why my house feels bigger each time I return. It's proportional. As she shrinks, the space around her seems increasingly vast. She wanes while my father waxes. His stomach has grown round with wine, late nights, oysters, poetry, a new girlfriend who was overweight as a teenager, but my dad reports now she's crazy about fruit. It was the same with his parents. As my grandmother became frail and angular, her husband swelled to red, round cheeks, rotund stomach, and I wonder if my lineage is one of women shrinking, making space for the entrance of men into their lives, not knowing how to fill it back up once they leave. I have been taught accommodation. My brother never thinks before he speaks. I have been taught to filter. How can anyone have a relationship to food, he asks, laughing, as I eat the black bean soup I chose for its lack of carbs. I want to say we come from difference, Jonas. You have been taught to grow out. I have been taught to grow in. You learn from our father how to commit, how to produce, to roll each thought off your tongue with confidence. You used to lose your voice every other week from shouting so much. I learned to absorb. I took lessons from our mother in creating space around myself. I learned to read the knots in her forehead while the guys went out for oysters. And I never meant to replicate her, but spend enough time sitting across from someone and you pick up their habits. That's why women in my family have been shrinking for decades. We all learned it from each other, the way each generation taught the next how to knit, weaving silence in between the threads, which I can still feel as I walk through this ever-growing house. Skin itching, picking up all the habits my mother has unwittingly dropped, like bits of crumpled paper from her pocket on her countless trips, from bedroom to kitchen to bedroom again. Nights I hear her creep down to eat plain yogurt in the dark, a fugitive stealing calories to which she does not feel entitled. Deciding how many bites is too many, how much space she deserves to occupy. Watching the struggle, I either mimic or hate her, and I don't want to do either anymore, but the burden of this house has followed me across the country. I asked 5 questions in genetics class today, and all of them started with the word sorry. I don't know the capstone requirements. I don't know the capstone requirements for the sociology major because I spent the whole meeting deciding whether or not I could have another piece of pizza. A circular obsession I never wanted, but inheritance is accidental. Still staring at me with wine-soaked lips from across the kitchen table.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To not look the other way.
It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey, here we go at 33 minutes after the hour. It is the Bill Press Show. We are live in Washington, D.C., where we're brought to you today by the International Brotherhood of Teamsters with our post-caucus coverage. We all live better because of the good work of the Teamsters Union under President Jim Hoffa. Check out their website at teamster.org. Having a good time here in the studio with Peter Fenn here as a friend of Bill and our regular Bill Press team. The only member of the team we're missing is Evan McMorris Santoro. He's out in Iowa, up all night, we understand. Hello, Evan. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. How are you?
You're awake. Sort of.
That was almost convincing.
Yeah. Why aren't you already in New Hampshire? That's what we want to know.
Oh, I am in New Hampshire. I boarded the Bernie Sanders charter plane.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Which was delayed. We were supposed to leave at 10:30, but of course, some things got in the way. Waiting for results got in the way. We got on board that plane around midnight, and we arrived in New Hampshire at 4 o'clock this morning, New Hampshire time.
Oh my God!
He kicks off his first public events here in New Hampshire 3 o'clock this afternoon. It's just gung ho.
Didn't he meet with some supporters when he arrived? I thought I saw some video.
He did. I did not. But he absolutely did. Yeah, I mean, look, he rolled into town, and there was not much sleep on this plane between Des Moines and Manchester. It was not your sort of standard quiet flight. It was 50 reporters and a whole bunch of supporters, and Senator Sanders and his wife and his top aides. And Sanders was, up and down that plane, walking up and down that plane, talking to reporters, talking to supporters, talking to his staff. His top aides were doing the same thing. It was a very exciting flight, full of a lot of energy, and obviously that energy sort of carried Senator Sanders to start campaigning. As soon as he arrived, he got off that plane and drove to Concord and started campaigning.
So how are they feeling about the results in Iowa? Disappointed that they didn't win, or elated that they got as close as they did?
Well, I think a little bit of both, to be honest. When we left, this is one of those things, how we do everything now based on sort of access to the internet, and we had no Wi-Fi on this flight from Des Moines to Manchester, which is probably the longest period I've been without the internet since maybe July when I started covering Senator Sanders' campaign.
Wow. Yeah.
So anyway, when we left, the notion was that it was too close to call and nobody knew what the answer was. So that meant that we had a flight that was full of conversations about how a tie really needs to be called a win for Bernie, based on the fact that 6 months ago, he was down by 35, 40 points in Iowa, and so a tie would have to go, and they would call it sort of even. The Clinton campaign obviously is taken this slight win they've had and turned it into a really big. They're trying to turn it into a really big win for them. And when Sanders got here, he was not as interested in talking about the fact that Clinton won as much as he was talking about it being a tie. But I think that for a Sanders campaign, I said this to somebody last night, which is, the way the Clinton campaign looks at this is they look at this as from about the past 3 weeks. And the way the Sanders campaign looks at this is they look at from about the past 4 months. And, over the past 3 weeks or so, Clinton and Sanders have been duking it out in Iowa, and there was a real sense among Clinton people that he might end up beating her, and that would look very bad for them. Meanwhile, the Sanders people recall very well the days when they were down 35, 40 points, and there was only 3 reporters covering Sanders as opposed to 55 that they have now.
Yeah. So to that extent, I mean, I think Bernie can be proud. Peter?
Yeah, I mean, as we were talking about earlier, this is helpful to his money chase. He's going to raise more money. He's going to get more attention. There are going to be more press people on these planes, and he lives to fight another day. And this will be a long slog, I think.
Yeah. So, Evan, here's what the one thing we were talking about is, and you've seen this and you've been reporting about this, is that the people Bernie's age, for the most part, Hillary won. The young people, Bernie won. How does that happen? What's going on here?
Well, I think let's not forget the central takeaway of Iowa, which is that the top line on a brand new hardcover book apparently does not change the electoral polls that much after all that.
And of course, you're referring to buyer's remorse. Thank you for the mention. Right? Yeah.
Right. Well, hey, that book was a talk of the town for about a day there, Bill.
But this town too.
But hey, I have my copy at home, and as soon as if I ever get back to Washington, which I think it probably will be sometime in late 2018, I'll definitely take a look at it. No, listen, this has been one of the more fascinating questions, actually, about this election, considering the fact that Hillary Clinton's people, a lot of her supporters, said she has some really smart supporters and some very strong progressive supporters that represent a lot of young people. They tried really hard this time to make Clinton the candidate of particularly young women. I mean, they talk about, things that are true, like the historic nature of her being the first woman president and her tie to, sort of pro-choice causes and things like that. And after months and months and months of this attempt, brand new surrogates, brand new sort of focus on different kinds of media outlets, the celebrities everywhere, Clinton's own language changing to focus in the conversations about things like abortion. It ends with the way the polls have shown right along in Iowa, which is that young people just didn't really pay much attention to what she was doing. And this is honestly a problem. We still have a lot of primary to go now. I'm in a state where Sanders is expected to do very well, so we shouldn't count any chickens here. Yeah. But the Democratic Party has to worry if they're going to go into the general election with a candidate who cannot fire up and cannot create a passion among the young people. That was a success in 2008 and 2012.
I was going to say that was Barack Obama's success.
Right. But the really crucial point here is if you look at the views of the Bernie supporters and the Hillary supporters of the other candidates, it was generally still positive. You hear these anecdotal things, but 82% of folks are happy with Bernie getting it. 81% of the folks are happy with Hillary getting it. I think also what you've got, and the president said this, you've got shiny new objects. People like shiny new objects. To them, even though he's been around a long, long time, Bernie's kind of new, and his message is strong. But I think one of the things, and Bill and I were talking about this a little earlier, as you get into this, as you get more press attention, the power of the microscope gets turned up on everybody. This is on the Republican side, but it's also true of Bernie. By and large, people know most things about Hillary Clinton. They don't about Bernie Sanders. So, you're going to see, I think, a little bit more nuanced coverage of this race. And I think we have to be very careful, as we were also saying, of taking Iowa and saying, okay, this is the 50 states. This ain't. So, there's a lot to unfold here in the coming couple of months.
What kind of an organization do they have does the Sanders campaign have in New Hampshire, Evan?
It's extremely robust. I mean, just like they had in Iowa, this is another part of the Sanders campaign. One of the first stories I wrote about the Sanders campaign, I've been covering it for a long time, was about these sort of two different campaigns that Senator Sanders is running at one time. The first campaign is an extremely innovative, sort of hands-off, grassroots, tech-based campaign that is the one that provides him with the huge amounts of money via small donors, a huge base of, phone banking and all sorts of other digital organizing that's happening really without much campaign oversight. This is a very active group of volunteers. On the other hand, though, he has these very traditional campaigns in these early states. And so in Iowa, he had an extremely competent and sort of well-known official who knew his way around the Iowa caucuses and had a ton of, paid staff, a ton of volunteers, walk lists, and all that stuff. And New Hampshire's the same way. He has a political veteran running his operation and a huge amount of staff and a huge amount of volunteers.
And Peter,
and they're just knocking on doors and they're doing GOTV and they're doing all the things that people do.
Right. You and I've learned, Peter, that in a campaign, that's what it takes. That's what it takes. And
I mean, there's no question
all
that's
the
absolutely
razzle-dazzle,
right.
if you don't have identify your voters and you get them out to vote.
You look at the Republican side. I mean, a lot of razzle dazzle for Donald Trump, but didn't translate.
All right, now the important question is, Evan, are you going to be up in New Hampshire? I guess you are for
the week
next Monday and Tuesday, right?
Yes, I will.
Because the Bill Press Circus is coming to town, and we want you front and
come swing by, man. We're broadcasting live.
We're all very excited about it. I will hopefully have maybe at least accrued 2 hours of sleep by that point. So it'll be great.
All right.
It'll be great from that point.
All right. We want to see you up there. And we told Sabrina, too, we're going to go back to the same bar that we went to the last time I was up there with you guys. Okay. And we'll take,
oh, my God.
We'll bring Peter.
Yes. That's such a good idea.
And I'm coming this time. I get to come this time.
We'll bring Peter Ogburn along this time. So, all right. All right, man. Go take a nap and say hello to the good senator for us. Thanks. Evan McMar Santoro from BuzzFeed, BuzzFeed.com. Back with Peter Fenn.
The Iowa caucus results are in. On to New Hampshire. This is the Bill Press Show.
So you're drowning in student debt, and it looks like there's no way out. Have you considered bankruptcy? Of course not. It's a dirty word, and everything you've heard says students can't file anyway. It didn't start that way. Bankruptcy laws were enacted in the 19th century to give people a fresh start. But not all debt is created equal. Take this, for example. We have you, your buddy Carlos, and your grandma Lucy. Carlos got laid off. His credit card debt was too much to handle, so he filed for bankruptcy. It will totally screw his credit, but at least he can start fresh, and after 10 years, his credit report should be fine. Grandma Lucy's home lost half its value. Now her mortgage isn't worth paying back. She says, F it, and decides to file for bankruptcy too. Then there's you. You didn't land that dream job, you're struggling to make ends meet, but the interest just keeps piling up. With a broken heart, you've written off the possibility of buying a home, having kids, and getting married because, hello, who wants to deal with your crazy baggage? But in reality, you want those things, and your education was supposed to get you there. Now you need a fresh start, just what bankruptcy was intended for. You try to file, like Carlos and Grandma Lucy, and that's when you realize it's not as easy for you as it was for them. In the 70s, Congress worried that students were using bankruptcy to abuse loan programs. That wasn't quite true. Still, over the years, Congress gradually stripped student debtors of their options. The Bankruptcy Reform Act of 1978 was even called discriminatory toward students by the chairman of the subcommittee. Student debt was singled out and lumped with criminal debts. Today, if student debtors try filing for bankruptcy anyway, they'll need to prove their debt imposes an undue hardship. But who's to say what qualifies as an undue hardship? Even some judges have said they don't get it. This lack of clarity in the law could work in your favor. A Harvard researcher discovered in 2012 that few students actually try to discharge their loans through bankruptcy. Of the students who filed for bankruptcy to settle other debts, only 0.1% try the same tactic on their school debt. The craziest part? Just under half of them got their debts fully or partially discharged. In other words, you can file for bankruptcy on your student loans. Depending on your situation, it might just be a matter of trying. At least there's that.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts. Stop the wrecks.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is 12 minutes before the top of the hour. A little reference there on the part of Evan McMorris Santoro to the book that's getting all the buzz. That happens to be my new book, Buyer's Remorse, How Obama Let Progressives Down. Talk of the town here and the talk of the town in Des Moines, Iowa. Not as negative as it sounds. Actually gives President Obama credit for all the good things he's done, but just points out, to be honest, there are certain ways that we as progressives, places where we as progressives were hoping he would take the lead and really get some things done that he did not do. So it's the good and the not so good of the Obama administration. The important thing is you can get your copy signed or inscribed any way you want by just going to our website at BillPressShow.com. Follow the click. You tell us how you want to sign. We will get it out to you right away. Or you can pick up a copy. It comes out today, so you can pick up a copy today if you want in your local bookstore, or get it from Amazon.com. You order Amazon Prime, you'll have it in 5 minutes.
Yeah, you have it yesterday. Jesus.
Yeah.
Scary.
Well, you're going to hand deliver it to their house, aren't you, Bill?
No, I'm going to send a drone.
A drone, I see.
All right. Peter, so where do we go from here? On the Republican side, I'm just intrigued by this. That I think, the establishment they always come through, right?
Yeah, they sure
did
do
the
on
last
the Republican
time,
side.
after they had all those crazy people there,
right.
Even Herman Cain and Michelle Bachmann, having Rick Santorum,
Right.
they all had their moment in the sun. Then they went back to old Mitt Romney, right? Now, I'm not saying Rubio is as boring as Mitt Romney, because he's certainly not. But do you think the establishment's going to win out in the end?
I think that they are going to make very solid decisions soon that they got to vanquish both Cruz and Trump, and that they need a reasonable alternative to win this nomination. And, we were just talking during the break. I mean, if you have a situation where Trump stays in, which he's likely to do, he's really persistent, and Cruz continues to stay in, he's really persistent, and the other sort of establishment candidates drop off, the governors, the Jeb Bush, the Christie's, the Kasichs,
Right.
and then suddenly everybody says, okay, our guy is Rubio. And you go to these winner-take-all states, and they have 3 candidates in that race, one of whom is Rubio.
Mm-hmm.
He starts winning these with 35%, 40%, 45%. Then he could be off to the races. And I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I think that's where the Republican establishment would like to see this race go.
Now, let's not forget one other candidate. Now, of course, Mike Huckabee dropped out last night after the caucus votes, and so did Martin O'Malley. But one candidate, he wanted us to be sure and know he was not dropping out.
Jim Gilmore?
No. This candidate had a different priority. That's something he had to take care of.
The doctor.
Here he is, the good doctor.
Believe it or not, I'm actually going to go home and get a fresh change of clothes. And that doesn't mean that you're suspending your campaign. It doesn't mean that you're bowing out.
It just means he needed a change of clothes, so he's going to Florida to get a change of clothes because he's been on the wrong. What do you say, Doctor?
Well, what happened exactly is I've run out of fresh, clean socks, and
underwear.
And underwear, and it would be too bizarre for me to just go buy a new pair. So I'm going to fly back to Florida.
It's the most expensive pair of socks I'll ever own.
But pro tip, right? Because we all travel a lot. Okay, so you can either go to a laundromat and wash your clothes, which is something that I've done when we've been
and
on the
something
road.
I will never do. You could.
Yeah, you could hypothetically do that. You could also, if we're really swinging for the fence here, just go buy a new wardrobe for cheaper than you could fly to Florida.
That's what I would do.
Right.
Yeah, right. I've done that in New York. I've gone in and bought whatever I need: socks, underwear, shirt,
crap!
tie,
I'm out
whatever.
of. Or I forgot this. You don't fly home and get it.
I think he got enough money coming in for his campaign to do that. I did get I don't know that you guys were lucky enough. I got a solicitation from Ben Carson. Great, huge, big envelope. And do not bend, autographed lithograph enclosed. Dear Peter, you stand with us. You are one of the great heroes of our time.
What?
Oh, yeah, it's a great piece.
Man.
And it's funny, he asked me for money.
Isn't that weird?
Was it a picture of him and Jesus?
Yeah, he's got that picture of him and Jesus.
Jesus with his hand on his shoulders going... Yep. Oh boy! Oh boy!
Hey, Peter Fenn, thanks so much for coming
this
in,
is
man.
a pleasure.
It's a big day.
It's great to see you
in a week,
guys.
we'll talk New Hampshire.
We certainly will. All right.
I'll be back with a parting shot, and I'll see you on CNN at 11 o'clock Eastern Time. Your new CNN contributor. I have to keep you up to date on my schedule. I'll be back with today's parting shot. Thank you, Peter.
Thanks very much, guys.
Follow us on Twitter at BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
A letter to the girl I used to be. Dear Emily, every time I watch baseball, a voice I no longer recognize whispers, "Ethan, do you remember? When you were going to be the first girl to play in the Major League Seattle Mariners rally cap." But to be honest, Emily, I don't. Dad told me that like it was someone else's bedtime story. But I do know you had that drive. Didn't let anyone tell you to wear shorts above your knees. Didn't care if boys thought your hair fell on your shoulders just right, but with girls, sleepovers meant the space between your shoulder and hers was a 6-inch fatal territory. The year you turned 11 was the first time you said out loud that you didn't want to live anymore. In therapy, you said you wouldn't make it to 21. On my 21st birthday, I thought about you. You were right. At 19, you started to fade. I tried to cross you out like a line in my memoir I wished I could erase completely. And maybe I'm misunderstanding the definition of death, but even though parts of you still exist, you are not here. Most of my friends have never heard your name until now. I've been trying to write this letter for 6 months. I still can't decide if it should be an apology or not. But now you will never hear Emily Smith announced at a college graduation. Get married. Give birth. When the prescribed testosterone started taking effect, my body stopped producing the potential for new life every month. I thought about your children, how I wanted them too. I let a doctor remove your breasts so that I could stand up straighter. Now, even if I somehow had those children, I wouldn't be able to nourish them. My body is obsolete, scarred cosmetic, but never C-section. I was 4 days late. They will never be grandparents. I was 1 week late. They will never hold their lover's sleeping figure. I was 11 days late. They will never breathe in a sunset and a sunrise in the same night. I was 2 weeks late. They will never learn to jump rope. I was 3 weeks late. They will never shout, "Watch, Mommy, watch me on the slide." I was 2 months late. A piece of us will never wrap their arms around our leg for comfort, but just to keep them from falling down. And I am sorry that this process is so slow, and all you can do is wonder if you ever had a place. You did. You still do. Don't forget that. Yours, Ethan. P.S. I never hated you.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is The Bill Press Show.
Yep, the results are in, and on the Republican side, Ted Cruz leaves Iowa the big winner, big mouth Donald Trump the big loser, but watch out for Marco Rubio. He's the one who did better than expected. it's clearly now just a three-man race. And on the Democratic side, with a virtual tie, both Hillary and Bernie can leave Iowa with a bounce in their step. But for Hillary, look, she may not have won by much, but a win is a win is a win. And still, you've got to say that Bernie and his army of volunteers scored a great big success in Iowa. To come from 40 points behind with no super PAC, no Wall Street money, and zero establishment support, to tie and almost beat the powerful Clinton machine, as Bernie said, they did what everybody considered impossible. And now, all right, saddle up. It's on to New Hampshire. Have a great Tuesday, folks. Come back and see us tomorrow.
This
We'll be
is the Bill Press Show.